Good evening. Welcome to Fantastic Dimensions. We are continuing our Hudson and Brand campaign. Today, this is the fourth investigation since the new owners have taken over. It is called the Night of the Jackals. And let me just think here. This would be case file 27, I believe, right? 24, 5, 6, 7. Yes, this would be case file 27 as far as the Hudson and Brand agency goes. So, before we get into the current investigation, a little follow-up to the previous case file 26, Plantathyre, which had taken place in the Green of Vahan Valley in Brecknockshire, Wales. In May, so nearly a month after your escape from the little people in Wales, you get a visitor at 33 Golden Square. Actually, I'll pull up 33 Golden Square here. There we go. Yes, you're going to get a visitor, and of course, as always, your trusty, reliable man-servant, your butler, Markham, is there. Will answer the door, and the gentleman who is calling on the agency, you already have met previously after your first investigation. It is Superintendent Ronald Hooker. He's a balding man with large whiskers, a pretty steadily anyway, expanding waistline, who is in his senior police years. And he is in his superintendent's uniform. And he has with him a man who is, well, I'll let him describe himself. He's not in necessarily a policeman's uniform or a constable's uniform, but he has a young man with him. And Tom, why don't you go ahead and describe your character for everybody so they know what they're looking at?
Well, you're looking at a young man, aged 23, average height and build, black hair, big mustache, and one of those funny hats, bowler hats, I think.
Yep, that's a bowler.
Yep. And a long trench coat.
Excellent. And so Markham, of course, will let the superintendent and his nephew in, and we'll summon the masters of the household, Reuben and Wilhelm, letting you know that Superintendent Hooker of the constabulary is in the parlor.
Very good. Show him in.
Well, he's in the parlor waiting on you, sir.
Ah, of course. Yeah.
At this point in time, we'll say it's in the afternoon. Markham will say, "Shall I prepare some tea, sirs, or perhaps this is an occasion for brandy?"
Just go with tea right now.
Very well, sir.
Reuben?
Reuben, yeah, I was going to let you finish. Reuben's going to make his way to the parlor and.
Excellent. The superintendent will be there, and he'll be happy to see you as you walk in. He'll shake your hands with his pretty firm handshake still for an elderly man. He's been in police work for probably over 30 years, and maybe even closer on 40 years at this point in time. But he keeps himself, despite his rotundity, he keeps himself pretty fit. Strength-wise. Say, Master Carmichael, Master Von Zorn, pleasure to see you again.
It's always a pleasure, Inspector.
This is my nephew, Stanley Hopkins.
Mr. Hopkins?
Pleasure to meet you, gentlemen. He shakes your hands, a bit nervous.
If you don't mind, I have a matter of inquiry, official inquiry to bring up with you. And then I also have a favor to ask of you.
You know
anything, Superintendent, please go ahead.
You know that Hudson and Brand is always at your service, sir.
Yes, I appreciate that. It has come to my attention that you were employed by a client last month by the name of Nathan Hardwick.
Indeed.
Yes.
And you were employed by him to investigate the strange circumstances of his uncle's murder in Wales.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Inspector.
How did it go?
I look at Ruben. Well,
It went the way that these things tend to go, Superintendent.
I see.
Well-
And young Master Hardwick?
his decision to stay in the area in Wales, he made.
And travel locally incognito as he spoke.
Did he?
Yes.
Well, see, his housekeeper has reported him missing. He apparently had taken a train to Wales with some members of your agency and was never heard from again. And she was concerned for his safety and well-being.
Superintendent, as it turned out, he met a young girl, a girl of a lower standing than his own, and she has him distracted. He has given up his current procedures of following his course of university, and he just means to travel with the young lady around the countryside and find his way.
I see.
And to be truthful, Inspector, more information you would probably need to speak to the local constabulary there.
Yes, I have already spoken to a Mr. Merrick of the local constabulary in Partridge. Not a very friendly man.
Yeah, he's dreadful and incompetent. But
yes,
our investigation about the
he did say the only thing he could really tell me was that the last time he had seen Master Hardwick was in your company.
Yes, the truth is that we believe that the colonel was killed by local small people there, the natives.
Small people.
Natives. How do you people say?
No. He doesn't.
Peasants.
Yes. He meant the peasantry, and he gives Von Zorn a Zorny look.
I look back at him. I'm like English. He says, anyway, we believe that, and we gave the evidence to the local constabulary. Unfortunately, we were unable to do anything more.
I see. Very well. Well, I will make sure to let the lady know and assure her that certainly Master Hardwick will be in touch again in the near future, and then keep the house in order.
I look at the inspector in the eye and I say, Inspector, you know the type of work we do and the type of investigations we make there. Right? We look into the strange and those supernatural incidences that aren't normally seen by
I believe my last visit, you said you were going to go into the antique business. Did you not, Master Carmichael?
Yes, that is the business I was in before, and I am also branching out into investigations as well.
See,
diversifying.
The inquiry bug has bit you, I see. Well,
yes, Superintendent. I will be making a formal inquiry report just this afternoon. I'll make it directly and have it delivered directly to you.
Well, as it happens, this is good news, which feeds directly into the favor I wish to ask you. My nephew here, Stanley, has been working as a junior investigator with Scotland Yard. He has, he still has a bit to learn, let's just say, and he has a little bit of time off currently from the yard, and I was wondering if you would take him under your wing to do some pro bono work, just for the experience, to get a bit of a feel for the way things work in the real world and different methods of investigation.
I am going to have to say no, sir.
I look at Ruben and go, really?
We cannot expect a professional as this young man to work for nothing. So he will be paid as any other investigator.
I smile.
Oh, is that to your satisfaction, Stanley?
Well, absolutely. That's more than generous of you, gentlemen.
then it is a deal. So whenever he has time away from his duties at the Scotland Yard, of course, he will be available to assist yourselves in any ongoing cases that you may have.
Of course.
Very well met, Mr. Hopkins. We look forward to working with you.
Very well.
Superintendent, may offer you brandy, or do you have to leave?
Oh no. I'm still on the clock, as it were. But we will be departing now. But of course, Stanley will be in touch in the near future, and we'll arrange a schedule of when his times are and when he's available for legwork, as it were, or whatever you may need done.
And of course, Superintendent, anytime that you want to come by the Sportsman Club, just drop my name and I will leave an invitation there for you.
Of course, Mr. Van Zorn. A pleasure.
As
Ruben?
always.
Markham, thank you.
Superintendent?
The tea is fantastic as always.
Superintendent, Mr. Hopkins, I will walk you out.
Okay. And they will go on their way until we can move up to the events of the current investigation, which will take place about 5 months later in the I don't think there's any specific dates, but we'll call it the early October of actually, do I have dates?
Now, before we go any further, does the superintendent know what we do actually? Does he know that there's supernatural crap involved?
Not so much, no. I think you might have been confusing him with Sergeant Parlow.
Right. No. I was just I didn't know if
Not you, but Joseph might have been.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it filtered up to him.
Yeah, he's probably heard stories, but he doesn't believe in any of that shit.
So in the meantime,
well, we actually have it on our business cards.
Well, you are inquiry agents of the obscure, yes. And there's plenty of the obscure is of course interpretive. That doesn't necessarily mean it's
it's a novelty during the time period. Ruben is going to secure, by whatever means possible, examples of the young man's handwriting. And he's going to establish somebody local to write a series of letters documenting his travels around the country, and that not to worry, that he will be returning as soon as possible, and asking for small amounts of money to be sent to small, just travel money. And when he gets all, he's going to have if it's not within any of his local talent pool, he's going to pull in a forger and have him write the letters. Mm-hmm. And that way he can use that to dissuade some of the suspicion for the young man.
Okay.
And then what he'll do is he'll have it, go up to where we left off and grab whatever type of stamp material that they have for local stamping. Because I don't think they would have done dates. They probably just would have done local from this depot, and just stamp them all and then head back.
All right.
That way, when the letters stop, they can just assume something bad happened 3, 4, 5 months later.
Right. Okay. No problem. And we'll move it forward then to Wednesday, October 1st of 1890. We will call it evening time. It's just after dinner at the Hudson and Brand Agency. Currently present, of course, are the 5 of you. So again, this is during a break period for Stanley. Oscar Bennett is also with you. He's recently come into your circle, basically, having been introduced to you through Mrs. Alice Morrow. And then, of course, Gerard Bonham is also present, who's been kind of working with you now. I think, is this your second or third investigation? Rob, this is your second, right?
This would be my third.
This will be your third. Okay, so he's been actually working with you since...
Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe there's a second.
Yeah, second one. Yeah, this is the second.
Okay, cool. Yeah, okay, good. Yeah, so he's been in your acquaintance anyway for the last 6 months or so at least. So, Yeah, that's right. It was almost 6 months ago when he had his unfortunate meeting with No Nonsense Nandak, the Chocho crime lord in Limehouse, right? Yeah, remember
Yeah,
that? Good times, Rob.
oh yeah, still got a few bruises that remind me every now and then. Just fortunately, he didn't break my fingers, so I could play the violin still. So that's his fortunate part of that.
Indeed, indeed.
Good times. Good times.
So you all have just finished dinner. You're relaxing in the parlor, having whatever you prefer to have after dinner, whether it be it coffee or tea or something stronger, or brandy or vodka or gin. I mean, the house is fully stocked. Some of you may or may not be smoking cigars or pipes as you wish.
I have an announcement,
Oh,
if I may.
yes,
If I may. Gentlemen, I am very pleased to be among you today, and I have something for Gerard, and I have something for Ruben. And I bring out the case, pistol cases with the Hudson and Brand logo on them, and I give them to Gerard and Ruben because they are been here. I give them, and that's this there, and that there. And then they have the Hudson Brand engraving on it. I say any good agency needs their own signature, something that bonds them. And because Gerard, you show exemplary behavior and skill in that dreadful mess in Wales, I would like to present you with a Hudson and Brand revolver. And of course, Ruben, you being my partner, I would also like to give you one too. And also Walter and Renault, once we see them again, and Miss Morrow will get one of these engraved pistols.
Very well, sir.
I'll walk to you and try to hug you. I don't know if you'll allow him to hug him. But
Well, of course. And Mr. Bennett and Inspector Hopkins, I'm sure once you've been with us a little while, I'll have a pistol for you too.
Oh, those are amazing. Would be wonderful to have one of those.
Yes. And I'm sure you, in no time, you'll prove yourself an honorable and valuable member of this agency.
Mr. raised an eyebrow and looked slightly amused.
Very well met. Very well met.
There
Thank
go.
you.
I popped the image up on my screen there too, in case anybody couldn't see the link that he popped up in the chat. So they are custom-made MAS 1873 revolvers by Elderkin and Son of Lincolnshire.
Very nice.
And they have the Hudson Brand logo, I presume, on the pommel, yeah?
Yes, yes. So here's a toast, gentlemen, to the agency and to the foes and lives we will save.
Very well. Here, here.
To the agency.
Skull.
Stat-wise, let us see here. What would those guns be?
46.
They should be, well, yeah. 1d10 plus 1, they should be.
Yeah. Sounds good. I'm just looking for the chart. Here we go. Handguns. 1d10 plus 1. I don't see any guns that are 1d10 plus 1. Okay. So this one is
rifle.
Well, my Hudson's revolver.
No. They're guns that are 1d10 plus 2, like the 45s and stuff.
Oh. Well,
Would it be comparable to a 45, or do you think it'd be closer to a 38?
It'll be closer to. It's 11 millimeter, so it would be close to. It'll be close to a 45.
Yeah. Okay. So stat wise, here's what we'll go with. So yeah, it's a D10. We'll say a D10 plus 2 damage.
Woo-hoo.
Its uses per round are 1 or up to 3 if you want to rapid fire with the penalty dice. It holds 6 bullets, of course. Malfunctions only on a 00, 100. Range of 15 yards base. Okay.
I'd like to talk to Mr. Zahn and ask him if he could lend a hand on getting me acquainted with using a pistol, because I'm not familiar with a pistol, just with a shotgun.
You are a member of this. You are a member of this society, this agency. So of course, I would be more than glad to spend some time with you on the range.
Thank you very much, sir.
We have one right in the back, as you know.
Yes.
In the basement, but yes.
In the last 5 months, was I able to expand our orphan network by any means? Because that's what he would have been expressing.
And yeah, somewhat, I'm sure. In what ways?
Gathering more street kids to be our eyes and ears, and errand boys and such.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you have a network of little birds, as it were.
Yep.
No problem.
Keep them out of trouble.
Yeah, and keep a few shillings in their pockets.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
Food in the belly.
So as the five of you are sitting here, a couple of you are admiring your nice new handguns, enjoying your after dinner smokes and drinks or whatever. There is a knock on the door, or probably a ringing of the bell, which of course Markham will go to get. And then he will show in your uncle, Reuben. Your uncle, Alan Pace, who is actually set to come over for dinner tomorrow night. Alan is he's in his mid-30s. He's actually, I think, a few years younger than Reuben, but he is your mother's like baby brother, basically. Alan Pace, tall, thin. You, of course, know he lives in a flat above a small tailor shop, which he owns not far from Piccadilly Circus. Never married. Yeah. What else would you know about your Uncle Alan? You know he's kind of lives in a constant state of blissful awareness, or unawareness, I should say, blissful unawareness, you know. He's not stupid, just kind of unperceptive. And as a result, he's kind of a little clumsy at times and susceptible to distraction. And he tends to prattle on about various things. Has a keen interest in clothing and birds. His business, the tailor shop which he runs there, is respectable. He produces fine wares there. You know that he's been living in London for most of his adult life, having returned here after serving in the army several years ago. Where he was stationed in Egypt and saw action in several battles in the early to mid 1880s. He was wounded at least once, though not seriously. And although he can occasionally be a little exasperating, you and the rest of the family are still very fond of Alan. So yes, he walks in the door, of course, being announced by Markham. Sir Alan Pace. Or not Sir Alan Pace, Mr. Alan Pace. Apologies. And he comes in. He says, Reuben, Wilhelm, good to see you again. Oh, hello. I don't believe we've met. He walks over to Oscar. I'm Alan Pace. I'm Reuben's uncle.
Alan, what brings you?
Well, listen, I know our dinner plans were for tomorrow evening. Unfortunately, I have come to personally deliver my apologies. I'm afraid I have to travel to Dover in the morning for the funeral of one of my old army companions. I won't be able to keep our appointment for dinner, but we should definitely do it again another time.
Good. Of course.
Very good, sir.
Pleasure to meet you, sir. He walks over to Stanley. I'm Mr. Alan Pace. And you as well. He sees Gerard and walks over towards Gerard to shake his hand. Well, what is it? Brandies and cigars? Yes. Well, I don't mind. Yes, Markham. Sure, I'll have some. Thank you very much. And Markham kind of produces the cigar box and says, "Just allow me to go to the kitchen to fetch a fresh glass."
I'll walk over to
Alan,
him and
Hold on,
snap my finger and light with the tip of my finger on fire for his cigar.
oh,
I clap. Amazing. Yes, yes, yes.
Put it out and have a seat.
what? How did you do that? That was amazing.
The mysteries of science.
He puffs away on his cigar.
You really should catch his show. It's actually great. It's one of the hottest tickets in London now.
Indeed. Although I don't do one during the month of October because I don't like being associated with all that hullabaloo supernatural claptrap.
What's your stage name?
Oscar Bennett. I don't have one.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
go ahead.
his name is his stage name. He changed it a while
Oh,
ago.
okay. Gotcha. Cool.
Mhm.
Oh, yes. You are Oscar Bennett.
Indeed.
The Leisure Domain.
Yes, correct. You heard
I've
it.
been meaning to come down and catch one of your shows. I've seen a couple of plays there.
Oh, excellent. Here, let me give you a card. I will be doing another show in November. But again, there's none in October for me.
Ah, very good. Oh, yes. Thank you, Markham. He reaches up as Markham brings in the glass freshly filled with brandy, and he puffs on his cigar and takes a drink of the brandy and says, "Well, yes. So how are things, cousin or uncle nephew? How are things, nephew? Keeping busy?"
Yes, sir. We have been fortunate enough to be busy on many fronts. And yourself?
Well, London is they always need fresh clothing in London. Yes, I couldn't be happier with the way business is going. Shame. Recently, seems like my old military companions are dropping like flies, though.
Oh, really? Did you know him well? Your friend who's you're going to the funeral. Did you know him well?
Well, yes, we were in the same regiment, the same unit, the first Buffs.
Oh, really?
Yes, Sergeant Major Crouch. He was a good man.
When did he die from? Natural causes or accident?
Let me double check here. Major Crouch.
I'm always asking the hard question.
No. I should have this at hand. I've just because my my PDF is kind of small here in front of me.
That's what she said.
Bumps.
Well, no, it would seem. Where's the details about Seth? That is the wrong guy. I'm just trying to find the information about Major Crouch. Yes, he was. He was strangled apparently near his home in Dover.
Good Lord.
Did they find the culprit?
No, I believe it is currently under investigation. The assailant is currently unknown.
Well, perhaps young Mr. Hopkins here could find out more information for you if he has connections.
Oh,
He is of Scotland Yard.
oh, really?
And it would be a pleasure to meet you, dear sir, if it weren't for these circumstances.
Yes, of course. Yes, well, so Scotland Yard and Hudson and Brand. Well, you're quite the busy bee for a policeman.
Yeah, well, I get some time off now and then to get some new perspectives
I see.
in the investigative procedures, or so to say. But yeah, I could contact the local police department and see if they know anything.
Yes.
But
well,
I mean, I believe you mentioned he wasn't the only one of your
no, it's the second one this
companions?
week, actually.
The second one in a week, and what about the first one? Did he die of natural causes then?
Well, it was an accident, but yes, it was Orland Reynolds. He fell in front of a train at Charing Cross.
Were both of these men in the same unit?
Yes, we were all in the same unit, first Buffs.
And were you in Africa, right? If I'm not correct.
Correct. Egypt, primarily,
Hmm.
and the Sudan.
Wow, that was such a lucky guess on my part.
Is yes, 1884. It was the year before Khartoum. We were the 1st Battalion of the Buffs, East Kent Regiment, named for our buff-colored facings and leather equipment, actually. But yeah, we were initially stationed on the Sudanese border in southern Egypt. A few hundred men at that time, led by Colonel Nicholas Hollingsworth. Fearless Nick, we called him. We were at low strength from our earlier deployment in Afghanistan, and we'd already been encountering the fanatical forces of the Mahdi. And after a series of skirmishes in which nearly half of our remaining battalion were hospitalized, the first buffs were withdrawn to the area north of Aswan on the Nile River. Our duties there were limited to policing, given our weakened state.
I've spent some time on the Nile myself. Huh. Peaceful country.
Yes, I was injured myself at the time, so I didn't get much time in during the policing deployment. Fortunately for us, we never really recovered to full strength, and we were never sent to Khartoum in '85. I believe it was years later, after my retirement, before the battalion did reach full capacity again.
I had a friend at one time, Benjamin Hardcastle, special group. He was in that area around that time.
Yes. Well, then you would know also that this Khartoum that he speaks of was it was a location in 1885. It fell to the Mahdist forces. Mahdist, Mahdist, not modest, Modse, but the Mahdi forces, and all English lives were lost in Khartoum then, and Sudan wasn't retaken from the Mahdists until a couple of years ago, actually.
Well, it seems kind of unusual. How many men were in your unit, by the way, Alan?
Oh well, I don't know what we were at full capacity. There was about 300 of us left at the time when we first when we first were deployed to the Sudanese border.
No. And how many got out? How many left the continent? He was able to leave the continent.
Oh well, most of us. Most of us did. Most of us retired, and some stayed on. But like I said, they avoided the Khartoum disaster.
Good. And how many friends do you still have that you stay in contact with your unit?
Oh well, I only really keep in touch with those of us who've kind of retired here around London. Mostly through the Army and Navy Club, of course.
Oh yes, I've been. I made a few donations to them.
Yes, we're on Pall Mall.
Yes. Well, did
you serve in Her Majesty's Armed Forces?
No, I served in the Kaiser's forces. I was in the Franco-Prussian War. I was one of the dragoons who marched on Paris.
Oh, well.
I'm sorry to interrupt, sir, but I don't quite recall having heard anything about this unfortunate accident at Charing Cross Station.
Well,
could it have been that you're
quite busy? People die every day.
Yeah, of course, but in such circumstances, could it have been that he was inebriated or something like that, maybe?
Well, I tell you, those new electric trains they just got in the country, this in London this year, I think those are the devil work myself, and I don't trust them.
Markham says, well, perhaps, sir, we have the article here. We do keep the papers. I believe we have an archive going back at least 5 years.
Oh, it would be worth to look that up then.
He says, "Listen, if you're interested in all this, perhaps you would like to travel with me to Dover in the morning. All of you could come.
Dover would be nice this time of year.
We'll be returning in the evening. It's just a day trip. Perhaps you could speak to the local constabulary there." Then he says to Stanley.
Oh, I mean,
That sounds like a good idea.
well, I mean, it's only 2 men. I mean, I guess we could go, but I don't see
Only
any.
2 men. These were my friends, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Alan. My rudeness. What I meant was I don't see where these tragedies are too much out of the ordinary, other than they were the same unit.
He mutters something under his breath about German robots. Oh no, they wouldn't have robots back then. What is it? Something about cold German, harshness,
Yeah.
lack of emotion, blah 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 blah. Something. Of course, no offense taken. I understand it was you merely misspoke.
I tell you, we'll accompany you to your friend's funeral. I mean, at least I will. I can't speak for anyone else here, but I will accompany you and say our respects to your fallen comrade.
I'm very sorry that I won't get a chance to have dinner here at Golden Square with you tomorrow. I do miss your strudel.
No, yes, of course. But perhaps next month.
You don't
Oscar will
have
make sure.
any now, do you?
No, we don't. We have no more strudel. Thank you.
Ah.
Perhaps next month we can get Oscar to get us some tickets and maybe find some dates, and we'll make it a whole night.
Yes, that sounds like
show.
a splendid.
Wow, that sounds wonderful.
Yes. So yes, we'll meet you at the station tomorrow.
Yes. 7:00. Where's the station? Actually, it's no, not Charing Cross. That's where the accident happened. It's the big station where you left from to go to Wales before. It's the major station. What's it called?
Oh, geez. Victoria Station?
No, but it doesn't matter.
No, Paddington Station.
Yes, Paddington Station. Thank you. That's the one. Yes. We'll meet there tomorrow then at 7:00. Thank you very much for the brandy and the cigar. I think I'll take this with me. He says, "Well, the cigar is only like maybe not even half smoked yet."
There'll be 6 of us.
He does a quick count. Yes, that would seem to be correct.
I'll have a private car then. No sense in sitting with the masses.
A private car.
I laugh a little bit.
On the train.
Oh yes. Okay. Sorry.
Right.
That's my fault. GM, that character. Very well. And so he departs then, leaving you.
And I mean including all of us. I'm not going to just sit by myself away from everybody.
a private car.
Yeah.
Private car with the doors locked.
Yeah.
The lower people, yeah.
Some big guy standing at the door. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Could I get in to speak to Mr. Bennett, please? Who are you? I'm his boss.
Mr. Bennett.
Bennett is busy.
Brandy and cigar for 6, but I will be alone.
Yes.
So, and then Alan, of course, he departs, leaving the 5 of you in the parlor.
Yeah.
And Mark turns and says, delightful as always, Mr. Pace.
That Alan, he's a card.
And he looks at you, and he says, "We do have a fresh strudel in the kitchen, of course, sir."
Oh, my mistake.
The one that was prepared for tomorrow's dinner.
Yeah. Oh well. What are you gonna do?
He says, "I take it then that Mrs. Levi and I will be dining alone tomorrow."
Yeah, unfortunately, yes.
Very well, sir.
Excuse me, Markham, could you show me where the archives are in the building here? I'm curious to see if there was anything printed in the newspapers about this accident.
Yeah. And you don't have to look too far back, since both of them have happened in the last week. So I'm not going to make any rolls for this. Let me see here. Do I have a blank?
Well, they're doing that. I'm going to take my leave and head home and get that car booked for the group and prepare for the trip.
Sure. Okay. So you go to the station.
Yep. Swing by there, or send a like a servant over to do that.
Yeah, you can do that. No problem. To book a car for 6.
Yep.
On the train to Dover in the morning.
Exactly.
No problems. Let's see here. Which handouts do I need? I need handout number 1 and handout number 2. Of course. Cool. Just double checking. I heard you. I heard you, John. So here's the first article that you come across. I could pop that also into the Facebook chat just in case anybody wants to hold on to a copy of it for themselves. So coming through now. So it says, tragedy at Charing Cross. Man falls in front of train. Bystanders at Charing Cross Station were horrified yesterday afternoon when a man fell from the platform and was fatally struck by an incoming train. Orland Reynolds, 42, was pronounced dead at the scene shortly after the accident. A veteran of the Sudan campaign, now working as a shop assistant, Reynolds is survived by his wife Rosemary and their 2 children. The funeral will be held later this week at St. John's, Kensington. Pending an inquest, the incident is believed to be simple misadventure, but afternoon train services were seriously disrupted as the platform had to be closed. Railway Board officials are investigating this tragedy to determine how similar incidents may be avoided in the future. So that is the first.
Sounds pretty simple.
Incident.
Clear cut.
And you also then find a more recent article. There we go. I'll pop it up there. I can send this one through to you as well, just in case you'd like to have your own copy, or if you can't read mine, etc. Brutal murder of a popular local war hero. Retired sergeant major strangled in his home. A most brutal and shocking murder has been perpetrated in a quiet Dover suburb without apparent motive. Sergeant Major Herbert Crouch, 51, was discovered in his home yesterday morning, strangled by an unknown assailant. A neighbor reported seeing a tall figure near the garden gate of Crouch's residence on the night of the murder, and the police urgently desire to speak with anyone who can cast light on the identity of this person. Sergeant Major Crouch served with the Buffs in Afghanistan, Egypt, and the Sudan before his retirement in 1889, when he returned to the Dover area to be near his relatives. He was well known locally for his expert coaching of the local rugby team and his prize-winning Roses, and will be greatly missed.
This is what we get as far as research within our archive. Is that correct?
Yeah, this is the newspaper articles that you find in relation to the incidents.
Do we know anybody who is currently still active duty that we could pull perhaps information from?
What kind of information are you talking about?
I'm gonna say Ruben doesn't know anybody like that because that was not the circles he was in.
I've been working on that on my downtime.
Yeah, I want to talk to somebody who served in the Sudan campaign.
Yeah, well, your best bet to do that would be to go to the Army and Navy Club.
Right.
You're not a member. Neither one of you are members, but
that's exactly. So,
but that doesn't mean you can't necessarily get in. Well, your uncle is a member, for sure. As he said, that's kind of where he keeps in touch with his old war buddies.
You know what bothers me about as I read this? This gentleman, the sergeant major, he just recently got out. He was a sergeant major. He was a member of a really tough team, tough unit. It's almost boggles the mind that a single assailant could actually subdue the man in such a way. I'm just saying that most sergeant majors that I know are pretty rugged men. You know, this man is a combat veteran. It's almost
and of retirement age, and had settled into doing Roses, so he may not have been.
Well, no, he's also coaching the local rugby team, so that means he's probably a man of good size.
True, coaching, not playing, but yes, good thoughts.
Yeah, I'm not saying there's anything unusual here or anything more than a local Scotland Yard couldn't handle. I'm just saying it seems a bit unusual.
Is Oscar Bennett the magician?
Yes, he is.
Yes.
All right. All right.
I just think that it's unusual. It would be unusual for a singular assailant to take down a man of the Sergeant Major's apparent qualities, but things happen.
And it's also a bit weird that a 42-year-old man would just stumble in front of a train. You know, we write down so many cases as misadventure just because, well, it would cause a whole lot of work otherwise.
Correct.
You know, the poor guy could have been pushed.
Who said they were going to their apartment? Was that Bennett?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I said I was going to book us a car for the morning on the train and heading home to get ready to head out.
Well, you know, perhaps after the funeral, our newest investigator, Inspector Hopkins, could possibly go to the Army and Navy Club, which I have donated very well to, and maybe ask around about the Buffs. I'm not that familiar with their history, and just, you know, a cursory investigation.
Are you going with him?
Me?
Yes.
After the funeral, if the inspector needs it, but I don't necessarily know why I would need to be there, but I would go with him if he wished. I did, like I said, I have donated, so maybe that would help.
But if you give me a letter of introduction, I'm sure I can manage on my own.
Very
Yes.
well.
Yes, he is an inspector of Scotland Yard. A lot of doors will open for him. So
Correct.
but like I said, this is something I don't see any need for immediacy in this because it doesn't seem that unusual and not normal and not our normal fare.
Is Stanley in the room with us right now?
Yeah, 4 of you are still there. Only Bennett left.
Okay, I was going to ask Stanley, because the newspaper doesn't say about the guy that got strangled, whether the article that strangled him was left there or was missing, and did he have any idea on what kind of method he was strangled?
By hand or by garrote, that sort of thing.
Right. Yes, and whether, you know, if it's a professional that did it, he may have even put his knee in his back and maybe a bruise. You know.
Yeah, well, we would have to check with the local police department. Scotland Yard only deals with the Greater London area. So we wouldn't have any direct information from any crimes happening in Dover. But if we go there tomorrow, I'll be happy to pass by the local police department while you attend the funeral.
Very well, thank you.
Oh, it sounds like a good idea. Well, gentlemen, I'm going to turn in for the night. Have an unplanned trip tomorrow. Good night.
Good night, Van Zorn.
Yep.
Good night,
And of course, there are 3 spare bedrooms here in the agency, so if Hopkins and Bonham wish to stay there, they can.
Well, since we have to leave early in the morning, that sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. I'd probably stay here off and on.
As I recall, I don't think you really had much of a place of your own outside, did you, Bonham?
No.
Right. Yeah. So it probably works to your benefit to stay here as often as possible.
Yeah.
Bit of a vagabond.
Yeah.
And Stanley is still staying. Stanley is still staying with his parents, so.
We take the boarding out of
Go ahead,
Gerard.
What's the time currently?
Oh, by this time, it's probably 8 o'clock at night.
All right. I'm gonna. I'm going to use my, let me see if I think I have shit library skills. Let me look real quick. I think I
For
may have
what purpose?
exceeded.
What are you gonna look for?
Oh, I have excellent library skills. I'm going to go back to the
newspaper archives?
papers.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to the papers and see if I can find some other perhaps unrelated, but somewhat related, see if there's maybe 4 of them, but the other 2 didn't get connected to it, that sort of thing.
Okay, sure. Go ahead and give me a library use roll.
All right, he's got a 65. Woohoo! Let's see here. Die roller, rolling my die, waiting for it to catch up.
You're still
And
using die rollers, John. Really?
I'm sorry, I don't have much room on my table here. Plus, I don't want to have the added noise. A 63. So fortunately for his high score, I just made it.
Yeah, you don't see anything. You don't come across anything that stands out to you as being related. So it takes you
All
a
right.
while. You're going through a lot of stuff. I imagine you're going to go back sometime. Yeah.
In the meantime, the key things I'm looking for are any notes of Sudan veterans.
Yep. No, nothing jumps out at you.
All right, very good. Fair enough.
Nope. Okay, cool. Now it's probably 10 o'clock at night.
Right, exactly.
You're leaving in about 8 hours. Markham will have made the arrangements with Albert, the cabman who works for you occasionally. What was his last name? You know the one. Anyway, he works locally, and he's kind of on call as needed for the agency. So he's going to drive you out at about 6 o'clock in the morning to take you to Paddington Station.
Right. I'm looking now.
Albert Stafford, the coach.
There you go, Stafford. Right.
So.
Yeah, I had to go back to my notes. I got a ton of notes on this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too. Okay, so we'll fast forward to the morning. In the morning, you get up, have a quick late breakfast, a little coffee or tea. Albert will have the cab ready to go for you, so you can. It's actually it's a coach, not even a cab. It's bigger than a cab, so it's nice and comfortable. Drive you over to Paddington Station through the relatively heavy fog in the morning here. And of course, you can hire a driver, probably have a driver on call yourself, Oscar, I presume, to take you.
I do indeed, yes.
Yep. And Alan will be there as well to meet you, chomping on a Cornish pasty.
Good
Ruben.
morning, Alan.
Mr. Van Zorn.
Good morning.
Mr. Bennett.
Yes.
Well, he just said good morning.
Oh, good morning to you, sir.
Bennett, you have the tickets for the coach.
I do indeed. Follow me, gentlemen.
Yes. Great. So yeah, you go down, you get to the train. You've got a nice private coach. Pretty swanky.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice. Very nice.
Indeed. Traveling by rail is quite relaxing, unless you're surrounded by the unwashed masses.
I get a laugh.
Dover, I don't think Dover is that far.
Still.
No, I'm just saying for time-wise. I think, how long would it take? Now, mind you, okay, trains are probably faster today. Currently, from London to Dover, it takes
76.3 miles.
Okay. I see them taking anywhere from an hour and 10 minutes to up to 2 hours and 5 minutes. So we'll say it'd probably take you a couple of hours, given the time period and all. So as you're kind of riding along, watching the countryside pass, the fog of London eventually fades away into a kind of a gray, misty, damp English morning as you kind of slip out into the suburbs and then out into the countryside.
Just letting you know, I'm only taking my revolver and just a dark dress suit. So I don't have what I had in Wales.
Okay. Before long, you find yourselves in the Kent countryside, making your way along, and Alan will begin to talk some more about the buffs. He'll say, yes, the buffs. We have a distinguished history. Dates all the way back to 1572. We've fought in many foreign wars. Most recently, of course, Egypt and the Sudan, right up until a few years ago. And prior to that, we had been stationed in Afghanistan and India. As I mentioned, commanding the 1st Battalion from India onward was Fearless Nick, Colonel Nicholas Hollingsworth. He was a gruff, courageous, no-nonsense officer. He says, myself and Toby Norton, Herbert Crouch, we were all among those who had served with the buffs since India. I believe Toby will be attending the funeral. I think I saw him in the station, actually. I didn't get a chance to call out to him, though. It was too crowded, and, well, he was nowhere near the private coach boarding section anyway.
While
I'm
in
sure
the
you'll
Sudan,
get to meet him at the funeral.
while in the Sudan, did you have any curious encounters? Any story-worthy occurrences? Something out of the ordinary? Something unusual? Huge camel spiders, that sort of thing?
Oh, yes, and he'll tell you stories about the insects and the various bugs and such, and the weird customs of the different peoples in the area. Talks about the Mahdi forces and the basically the what was it about the Mahdi? They were I have the information here. The Mahdi were Muslim separatists or something, I guess you would call it. They were led by a cleric named Muhammad Ahmad in the 1870s, and in an open revolt against Egypt. He proclaimed himself the Mahdi. That's where they got the title, the Mahdists. And he was called himself the promised redeemer of the Islamic world. They started off as a poorly armed group. And the Egyptian army was sent to suppress the revolt, but was massacred. And a lot of the Egyptian army's equipment ended up falling into their hands as a result. And they used that to continue the revolt. The Hicks expedition of 1883, which would later be described as perhaps the worst army that ever marched to war, was similarly unsuccessful against them. And then in 1884, the British decided that further involvement in the Sudan was pointless, and they sent a General Charles George Chinese Gordon to supervise the withdrawal of the existing Egyptian garrisons, which proved quite difficult because the garrisons were scattered and the Mahdist forces were everywhere by then. And unfortunately, Gordon's sense of honor would not allow him to withdraw until all of the Egyptian soldiers had been withdrawn. And, he became besieged then at Khartoum, which, as I mentioned earlier, in January of 1885, was taken by the Mahdist forces with the loss of all British lives. Of course, as your uncle has explained, they were lucky enough not to have been deployed to Khartoum because of the state of their unit after Afghanistan.
That
But
is a terrible story. Great loss to the empire.
Yes. Says there was also we had an aristocratic young captain, John Gower. He was promoted to major while we were in Egypt. And then there were other younger recruits, including the late Orland Reynolds. He kind of crosses himself, who, as you know, passed away last week. And then there was another young man named Elliot Sangster. He was a medic. He attended to me during my recovery from my injury. I took a bullet in Afghanistan, you see.
Beastly country, beastly. Oh, it seems like your unit was quite fortunate.
Yes, well, we did return to fight the Mahdi after our police actions for a time, but yeah, we suffered so many losses that we were then pulled back shortly before Gordon's forces were sent to Khartoum.
Hmm.
Were you
Many
away
of us,
from your
sorry?
Were you away from your unit for a long time when you were recovering from a bullet wound?
Well, I wasn't away from the unit. I just simply wasn't active. I was still with them. I was treated there. They didn't fly me back to England or fly me. They didn't transport me back to England for treatment or anything. I was still in Egypt. But yes, I was down for many weeks. Recovery, a couple months even, I think. Yes. I mean, yes, many of us did retire and return home and settled in the London area. Colonel Hollingsworth has an estate in London with his family. I, of course, set up my tailoring shop near Piccadilly.
Can you think of anyone who might, for whatever reason, had a grudge against your unit?
A grudge? No. Why?
Well, perhaps you came across a town and maybe some of the lads did something that may have not been, how shall we say,
Oh, well, there would be
correct.
many in Africa who would probably hate us greatly. Yes, I mean, we were there as an invading, or well, as a military force, a foreign military force, anyway.
Anyone that strikes your memory becomes to the forefront?
No, we met many people while we were there, but not all of them hated us either. Many were grateful for the aid and the support which we brought. Now the Mahdi would share no love for us, I would say, but
If you were writing a novel, Uncle, and you were to narrate your story and perhaps push the fictional element to it, who would you choose as the antagonist in the story? Is there one that stands out? A particular warlord, a cleric, someone along those lines that you could demonize as the main bad character?
oh well, it would have to be Ahmad himself. Yes, the cleric who led the Mahdi. Oh,
And he was never apprehended.
Mahdi. He was the Mahdi anyway.
Whatever happened to him?
That is a good question. Let me see. I just want to look this up here real quick.
And these Mahdi were they were Egyptians, right? Or Sudanese?
Up real quick.
Okay.
So he was Sudanese. Yep.
Right.
They were fighting against Egypt.
Right.
Proclaimed himself the Mahdi in 1881. Blah 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 blah. Just want to see how he died. So it looks like he died unexpectedly in 1885, at which point in time his chief deputy, Abdallahi ibn Muhammad, took over the administration of the then nascent Mahdi state. Because, as I had mentioned, they were... where did I go with the Mahdi here? Well, anyway, yeah. So, does it say how he died? Life, blah, 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 the rebellion, the arrival of Gordon, siege, the fall of Khartoum, and his death here, death. 6 months after the capture of Khartoum, he died of typhus.
Of course he did.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever happened to the British? Did you ever had a chance to?
Also, this is interesting. But this, well, would this be common knowledge? I suppose anybody who knows a bit about the military history of the area, like von Zorn, might know that in 1898, after the final defeat of the Khalifa by the British under the lead of General Kitchener. Muhammad Ahmad's tomb was destroyed and his bones were thrown into the Nile. General Kitchener was said to have retained his skull, which was allegedly later buried at Wadi Halfa.
Yeah, there was the desecration of the graves. There is that.
Well, that had nothing to do with us.
Perhaps the throwing into the Nile was returning the bones to some crocodile god or some such as that.
I'm sure that was their purpose. I'm sure that was their purpose, Ruben.
Crocodile god. You gentlemen are so amusing.
Well, anyway, where was I now? Oh dear, I believe I forgot what I was saying.
You were telling us about this Moadi, this gentleman, and I just remembered that.
I was telling you about the unit, but it's not important anyway.
You were recounting the losses and how you were going to catch up with the men that were alive.
Oh yes, of course. Yes. Well, Colonel Hollingsworth retired at his London estate with his family. He had a wife at that time, and I believe he's had some children since. I set up my tailor shop. Major Gower inherited his family's fortune and lives the life of an aristocrat here in London. Well, I guess here is in Kent now, isn't it? He says, looking out the window. But back in London, he spends a lot of time at the Army and Navy Club. Elliot completed his medical studies, and I believe he has a practice in London. He doesn't really keep too much in touch, though, with the men. And Toby, who I mentioned earlier, I believe I saw on the station. He will probably be at the funeral. He basically serves as a dog's body at the Army and Navy Club, living off the handouts of his former officers. Oh, and then of course there was Orland, who was a store clerk, and Herbert, who retired to his cottage to write memoirs and grow roses. You'll be meeting his family soon, I imagine.
Well, I mean, it does seem to be a bit of a tragedy, but to be honest, again, I don't see anything too unusual here.
Well, if anybody had a reason to kill him, maybe we can find something in those memoirs. If he,
to be clear,
he had written them.
In the time period we're looking at 1890. Not as familiar as I should be, but I think I've got a firm grasp on it as far as London goes. If we had your atypical or typical Maoist or Sudanese, I doubt they could walk around in public without generating a certain amount of notice. It was definitely not as cosmopolitan in 1890.
It wasn't. I mean, it wasn't as socially advanced, but I mean, it's the biggest city in the world.
Yeah, au contraire, they had sections in London where the Asians hang, the Orientals, they called them back then.
Chinatown won't officially be called such for a few years yet, right. But I mean, it's already.
I realize this. What I'm talking about is if somebody who was without means and in Sudanese tradition, they could not walk about where these retired gentlemen lived without being noticed.
No, probably not.
No, but they were there because there was a lot of anyone of the empire would visit London quite often. So yeah, it was quite a few.
Right. No, there's a lot of there are quite a few like Egyptians and Indians and such.
And they would be relegated to staying within their neighborhood, I would assume.
Some yes, some no. If you had a reason to be there, like if you were a merchant, you would definitely be in I forgot the name of the street. Yeah.
I know it's far.
Again, I think as far as where you're going, they would definitely be very easily noticeable.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. It's hard not to put today's PC on everything, but I don't think it was that open then. Is what I'm getting at. So, if we were to do any inquiry, it would be, oh, absolutely, I saw him at this date because it's only Sudanese we saw in a month, that sort of thing.
Well, maybe. I mean, honestly, I think most of the common people wouldn't really even know what Sudanese looked like. They just say,
some dark foreign gentleman.
Yeah.
Sure, absolutely. No, agreed.
Some African fella.
Right. North African, right.
They wouldn't necessarily know how to differentiate, somebody from Egypt, from somebody from the Sudan, from somebody from even India, for that matter, necessarily. You know,
Right, except for the guys that were there. We're stationed there.
Sure.
For. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, very good. Sorry, go ahead.
Yep.
I was playing chess in my head. I was just trying to work out some numbers.
So yeah, so the rest of the train ride will pass, and you will eventually arrive in the kind of well, I suppose Dover is probably pretty small at that time. I don't even know how big it is now, actually. Let's see, Dover in 1890s would be what does it say here? I've just got lots of images that come up. Doesn't really tell me anything about population or anything of that sort. But yeah, it's fairly quaint in comparison to London, anyway. You know, much smaller city. And yeah, so you can go to his funeral. Let's see here. Where is it here? The funeral.
Hire a cab.
Yeah, from the train station, no problem. Probably hire a carriage.
Right.
More room. You can fit 6 people inside comfortably.
There you go.
And keep the rain off of you. So the funeral is going to be held on a windswept hilltop churchyard. There will only be a few friends and family present. And of the first buffs, only your Uncle Alan and the grubby little Toby Norton are present. So you will meet Toby there. He's quite cheered to see Alan. And he mentions that I'm only here by the kindness and generosity of Major Gower. He paid my train fare and sent a sizable wreath of flowers. I'm a little annoyed, honestly, not to see Colonel Hollingsworth here. You would think he would have attended. But then again, he must be terribly busy these days since he hasn't been making it to the Army-Navy Club in London lately. Do I have a picture of Toby? Actually, let me just double check here. I think I do. Yeah.
And I'm just eavesdropping in the conversation, just listening.
There's Toby.
A right awful git.
Yeah, he's well, you know, he's a dog's body.
Right.
A relatively poor man. Dog's body basically just a lowly servant at the Army-Navy Club.
So,
You'll
when
see, of course, the major, the sergeant major's sisters at the funeral, crying, of course.
what was my uncle's retired rank? You can just make it up if you don't remember. It's fine.
I just want to double check and see. Doesn't actually mention his rank, so it'd be below sergeant major. Probably it wouldn't be very high rank. I don't know what the ranks are at the time. Let's see. First buffs.
Sergeant.
Yeah. While in the Marine Corps, I knew a
Yeah, sergeant sounds good.
color sergeant.
Whatever. It's not important. Why?
I was just curious because I was going to address him as such in front of his fellow military types.
Yeah, we'll go with sergeant.
All right, sergeant. Well, then I won't do it because sergeant's not a big deal.
No, he wasn't a big deal.
Okay, I'm going to ask him about if he knows anything about Colonel Hollingsworth on the side without drawing much attention. Might that be curious? And if someone was writing that mystery novel we spoke of that he has not been seen?
Well, yeah.
Maybe we could pay. We could pay him.
What do you mean? You think he has something to do with the murders?
No, quite the opposite. I think that if one were writing such a story, that he may have fallen off the horse, as it were, due to foul means, foul hands. I think we should check upon the colonel upon our return to London.
Well, yes, I suppose he has an estate, Kandahar House, it's called, in Hampstead. North of London. Yes.
You don't think we may be a little premature, maybe a little jumping the gun here? I mean, I don't see any evidence this is more than an accident and a coincidence of an accident and a robbery or thuggery.
Don't get me wrong. The colonel, was fully capable of being loud and belligerent, sometimes even cruel. But he was a good leader, harsh and uncompromising. But he got us out of there. Unlike some others, he says, and kind of looks into the distance, remembering the massacre at Khartoum.
Right.
Well, not remembering it personally, but remembering the stories about it that he just barely missed.
Sure. Recounting. Right.
Well, I mean, well, gentlemen, we are here for a funeral, and I suggest we keep this talk until after we have said our graces to the deceased.
Sure. Yeah, the funeral will pass relatively uneventfully. It's a typical funeral. An Anglican priest probably residing over it. A lot of tears from the two sisters who are present, and then people will start to, with their umbrellas, start to wander home.
Very good.
Well, Inspector Hopkins, do you want to go to the local constabulary and perhaps see if we can get any clues of what may have happened?
Yeah, that's the best idea, I think, because in the paper they mentioned the tall man. Maybe they have some new information by now.
Okay. And yes, do you need any help with that, or do you want to go by yourself?
Well, you're welcome to join me, of course.
And maybe if someone can speak to the family of the sergeant major, perhaps we can get some more information from the actual scene and know a little bit about the man. Since Alan was a friend of the sergeant major's, maybe he could go to the house with some of our investigators, and maybe we can learn more from there.
Yeah, maybe worth checking those memoirs.
Yes, and Alan, like I say, our end would be Alan. He could go to the house and pay his respects and introduce our investigators, and so we could check the house out. Would anyone disagree on that, or?
No, sounds good.
Yes. I will go with the young Inspector Hopkins, if you will, and you can divide up amongst yourselves.
Perfect.
Well, we'll meet back here at what time is the train leaving?
Let's see here. The funeral was probably around 10 o'clock or so, maybe a little later. The train will leave. Actually, you've got some time to kill because the train doesn't leave until 6 p.m.
Okay, so let's meet back here at 5:30 and see what we have.
5:30 it is.
Not on this windswept hill, but I imagine you mean meet back at the train station?
Yeah, meet
Correct.
back at the train station at
Right.
5:30.
Instead of here at the cemetery. Yeah.
Okay, I'll see you gentlemen then.
Okay.
So let me get this straight then. Wilhelm and Stanley are going to go to the local police station, and Oscar, Gerard, and Ruben are to visit the family home.
With Alan, I believe.
Oh, yes, and Alan. I forgot about Alan. Sorry. Yes. Yeah, okay, yeah, Alan will go along for that.
Who's heading to the house?
Yeah. Why are four of us going to the
I don't know.
family home?
You tell me who's going.
Okay, I got a little lost there. So by family home, we're visiting the family of the one that just died?
Yes.
Because it's where he is. You can learn a little bit more about the sergeant major, and maybe a little bit more about his murder. Maybe someone saw something, or check his personal effects.
The inspector did mention getting a look at his memoirs.
Right. I'm just thinking showing up in force without actually knowing the gentleman.
Well, that's why you're
Perhaps-
taking Alan. That's why you're taking Alan. Alan knows knows the sergeant major, and perhaps can talk to the family.
Perhaps my uncle as well.
Well, your uncle is Alan, right? Am I getting that name
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Very good.
Alan Pace, yeah, was your uncle.
Yeah, well, I wasn't calling him by his first name. Got it. Okay, yeah, we'll head over there then. And I guess the others will be in tow because we're just visiting in town and they're going to pay their respects. Very good. Sounds like a plan.
Okay, let's take a quick bio break then.
How break it is.
All right.
Turn off my camera like this, and I'll turn it back on then when we're back, so everybody else will know.
Alrighty.
My body has returned.
Welcome back.
As have I. I'm just crunching on chips.
That's fine. I crunched on a few chips myself.
I have no chips to crunch.
I don't have. Well, I have Tato Muchos, folded tortilla snacks,
I have Doritos spicy chili sweet chilies.
smoky chili chicken flavor.
Wow. Nothing to crunch here, but I'm back.
Welcome back, Tom.
Whenever we resume, if there's an opportunity that I could talk to kind of quietly to Carmichael's uncle and ask him if the fellows that have passed away were with him through his whole tour, like through Afghanistan, India, and up into the Sudan.
Yeah, I'm sure you could get an opportunity to speak to Alan. Shouldn't be a problem.
Okay. That's kind of what I want to ask him. I have an idea.
No worries. So who are we missing so far? Just Joseph, right?
Yeah, I think so. So maybe you could start with those going to the house.
That's probably a very good idea. All right, I'll turn my camera back on so anybody who's skipping through the video waiting for it to come back on knows that we're resuming. And now, so exactly who is going? Is everybody going? Well, not everybody, but the other four all going to the house then?
Sure.
Planned. So Alan, of course, having been a comrade of the Sergeant Majors.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay, good. We're rolling. So yeah, so Alan and Ruben, and of course Gerard and Oscar. I'll get the names eventually. I'll remember. All right. So along the way, did you need to speak to him in private, Gerard, or did you just want to talk to him?
Not necessarily private, just
Sure.
casually, you know.
Yeah, you have some time as you're making your way to Sergeant Major Crouch's house.
Just ask him if just curious on these gentlemen that have passed. Were they companions of you through your whole tours through Afghanistan and India and the Sudan, or were they fairly new to your group?
Oh, let's see. I just want to see. I believe I had some information on that here as to who was older or not. I don't think they. Obviously, they were all together in Egypt and Sudan, but before that, some of them weren't present, and I'm just looking for that information here. Here we go. Is it not here? So not present in Afghanistan, I think, would have been Dr. Sangster, Elliot Sangster, that is, and Orland Reynolds. I believe he joined them later, if I recall correctly. Where does it say here? Damn, I thought I saw something in here about when they kind of joined up. Right, they had been stationed there. Colonel Hollingsworth, his men, Alan Pace. Right, okay, so Alan Pace, Toby Norton, and Herbert Crouch, and Colonel Hollingsworth had all been with the Buffs since India. And John Gower joined in Egypt and was promoted to major. And the other new recruits included the late Orland Reynolds and the young medic Elliot Sangster. I was right. My instincts were correct. So there you go. So those all joined kind of once they had arrived in Egypt.
Okay. All right.
Those
So,
three.
Yeah,
So yes, the major, the sergeant major, was there since India. However, Orland Reynolds, who was the one who fell in front of the train, was recruited in Egypt or joined them in Egypt.
Hmm.
hmm So I don't know if that helps support or debunk any particular theory you had, but that's the information.
debunks. I was just going off kind of on a wild goose chase. Just
Well, it's okay because every theory that gets debunked is one less thing you have to worry about, one less thing you have to think about.
quickly explain it. I was thinking, I'm sure this was sensationalized at the time, but the thugs in India, and they did not kill anybody by drawing blood. They had to kill them through choking or like throwing them through a train would be part of what they would do. So
Oh, I see. Right, they weren't able to draw blood. That's an interesting idea, but it doesn't seem to hold water.
it doesn't. Okay, that's what I wanted to eliminate. Thank you.
Clever.
Yep, good thinking, Rob. Good thinking. But yep. Okay, so you will arrive anyway then at the home where Sergeant Major Crouch had lived. His sisters are there as well. His parents have passed. His parents, passed before. His sisters are basically his surviving family members. He had no wife or kids. So they're having kind of like a little private after funeral kind of wake, if you will. And of course, when Alan introduces himself at the door, they will welcome you in, and he'll introduce his nephew, Reuben Carmichael, one of the owners of Hudson and Brand Inquiry Agency in London, and his colleagues, Oscar Bennett and Gerard Bonham. So they'll welcome you into the home. It's a pretty modest family home. If you want, they'll show you the garden in back where what was his first name again? Crouch, Sergeant Major
Herbert.
Herbert, where Herbert grew his famed prized roses.
Hmm.
Cat, cut it out. Yeah, it's a pretty small cottage here. Actually, yeah, Herbert lived here alone. The sisters are obviously just taking care of the estate now that he's passed. Oh, he had been married. Sorry, but his wife had died while he was unfortunately while he was away in service.
Hmm.
So they'll show you the garden with the roses, though, and say, yeah, his body was found there. That's where he was strangled.
I understand that your brother was working on memoirs.
Yes, he was writing memoirs of his experiences in the army.
Perhaps I might have a look at them. I do know several publishers, and who knows? Maybe they're worthy of being put in print, and that way your brother can always be remembered.
Interesting. Yeah, go ahead and give me some kind of a social persuasion roll. It could be persuade or
Indeed, charm. Oh,
Yep,
definitely
charm
charm.
will work. Yep, roll that, and you can give a bonus die as well.
Okay, nice.
You know how bonus dice work, yeah?
Yes. That is a 24, so that is a... Well, that's a hard success.
Yes.
Not quite an extreme success.
No, they'd be happy to show them to you. And one of the sisters, will say, "Well, yes, here," and she'll take you to his desk. Actually, there's a huge stack of papers.
Oh my!
Tons of stuff because I believe he had been along since India. Yes, he had. And
I spent some time in India as well.
Did you?
Indeed.
And
studying sleight of hand.
Yeah, she feigns interest. Oh, interesting. She just buried her brother. Got her some slack.
Well, no, I'm not.
No. I'm just saying she's just kind of like politely pretending to be interested
Mhm.
in the in your Indian studies. But yeah, she says, well, if you think you might be able to get these to a publisher, maybe get something done with them, I could leave them with you for a time, as long as you'd promise to return them when you were done.
Of course.
Or perhaps you could make get copies made or whatever needs to be done.
Oh, that'd be quite easy to do.
Mm-hmm.
Start looking through them.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah,
Getting them
it's
packed
going
up.
to take quite a while to read through all of the stuff. It's going to take,
Yeah.
I mean, just to kind of skim through, it would take you probably a day.
Yeah, no. Get them boxed up.
Cool.
We'll bring them back to London.
Mm-hmm.
Reuben will do the courtesy and distract the family with accolades of the roses. Walk through the gardens and discuss
Sure.
varietals and such.
No problem.
Perhaps we could go through the royal horticulturist and maybe name a rose after him, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
Any particular patterns to the rose garden, like a layout? Any unusual pattern of the way the roses are planted?
Look at it from the second floor or something like that.
Yeah, good idea.
Well, there's no second floor to his little cottage here, but
Climb on the roof.
yeah, if you want.
No.
No, there is not though. No, it's a pretty standard, rose garden, and they are nice roses. I suppose would there be much left of them in what time of the year? This is October, beginning of October. I don't know, but yeah, it's a good garden.
Did they point out exactly where he was whenever he was strangled?
Yeah, it did. Yeah, he was strangled here in the garden.
Okay, but the garden, the roses aren't tall enough to hide somebody walking up on him.
No.
Okay.
And if you recall from the article you read, a neighbor had reported seeing a tall figure near the garden gate on the night of the murder.
Hmm.
And if you're talking to the sisters, they basically established, talking about their brother. He was a bit of a gruff man, but he didn't have any known enemies, any serious enemies or anything. And they will mention that they had nothing was missing from the house. So the only person who saw anything amiss the night that he was killed was the next door neighbor, who reported supposedly seeing a tall figure near the garden gate that night, but they couldn't describe anything more. They were questioned by the police though. On that note, we can flash over to the police station.
Perfect.
With Wilhelm and Stanley.
Okay.
So when
Perfect.
you arrive, there'll be, of course, a clerk, whatever you want to call it, officer at the desk.
All right, we'll let Stanley take the lead in this.
Good afternoon, officer. I'm Stanley Hopkins, investigator at Scotland Yard.
Okay. You show some credentials, I presume, yeah?
Yeah, indeed. And I tell him,
you, Inspector.
well, we're here.
Junior Inspector. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Well, we're here on the matter of that strangling.
Oh yes, the Crouch case.
Yes, indeed. We had a member of the same battalion die a bit in weird circumstances in London
Oh really?
a few days ago. So I was.
What was his name?
The other person that died was Orland Reynolds.
Orland Reynolds. Okay, interesting. Yes, she's taking down. He's taking down the information. Yes, I should look into that. Perhaps it will help us with our case here.
Yeah, could
Thank
we
you for the
maybe
information, Inspector. Appreciate that.
talk to the officer in charge on this case?
Yes, of course, and he'll get one of their own officers who doubles kind of as an inspector, and he'll greet you and say, "Oh, well, Inspector Hopkins, it's nice to make your acquaintance. I understand you brought a potential lead to us, and that's greatly appreciated. What can I do
Likewise.
to assist you?"
Well, we read in the paper that there was a tall man seen in the neighborhood
Yes,
at the
neighbor
moment of the
reported
killing.
glimpsing a very tall figure near the back gate of the cottage on the night of the murder. He said it was too dark to make out any features, unfortunately. We currently have no leads as to who this may have been. But I can give you some more details anyway, as to what we have found. He says, he pulls out a little file and says, it would seem that the attacker possessed extraordinary strength. Mr. Crouch's windpipe was crushed, and the bones of his neck had been ground together with great force, leaving finger-shaped bruises on his throat.
Wow.
Wow.
That sounds.
Inspector, my name is William Zorn. I am a private investigator for the Hudson brand. Inspector Hopkins was nice enough to allow me to accompany him on his investigation. May I ask you a question?
You may ask, of course.
Sure. Can you tell me how, I am not familiar with the victim, how big of a man would you say the Sergeant Major was? How well fit was he to defend himself, right?
Oh, well, he was pretty well fit. Slightly above average in height and weight. Sergeant Major seemed to be a man who would have been perfectly capable of defending himself, if that's what you're asking.
No.
He was 51 years of age, so his best years had passed him as far as physical fitness and strength had gone. But, well, the fitness may go, but sometimes the strength sticks around.
Yes, I understand he was a local rugby coach. I would assume that.
Yes,
that
indeed,
would work.
yes.
Yes. Did you find any evidence whatsoever, footprints or anything around the area?
Good question. Let us see here. What's your luck, Von Zorn?
My luck now is 11.
I rolled a 10.
Get out of here.
Nope, I rolled a 10. So he would say, we found one footprint. It was in the mud of the garden, not far from where we found the body. It was it was rather large. I would say, judging by the size of this footprint, that the suspect was well over 7 foot tall and probably close to 400 pounds.
My God.
Weight.
Did you perhaps happen to make a cast of the footprint?
What's your luck?
70.
Yes, we did, in fact. And he will present you with one.
I use my luck fangs and suck Hopkins' neck for luck points.
Now, let me just see something here about this. I'm trying to find... where is it? No. Okay. So, yes, the footprint is, it is quite large. I don't know what to compare it in size, like as far as shoe sizes go or anything of that sort. But also, it is interestingly, it's wearing a boot, or some sort of shoe or boot anyway. And it is quite deep, quite large.
My God, man. My God, Inspector, you cannot tell me that a monster of a man like this is that common here in Dover, would you know?
Well, I mean, not outside of the circus, not very common, no.
Is there a circus in town?
No.
What I didn't find anywhere about this this murder were there signs of a break-in or
No, there's no signs that the attacker even entered the home. It would seem that they simply came into the garden, killed the sergeant major, and then left, as far as we can tell. Nothing was reported missing, stolen, anything of that sort.
it's very weird.
Did you bother to question anyone at the train station about, did they notice any 7-foot tall, 400-pound men leaving the area?
Yes, of course, but there was none. So it's possible that it was a local. Although, again, I don't know of anyone locally of that stature.
I don't know anybody of that stature, to be honest with you, sir.
Well, like I said, I've been to the circus before.
Could we make a copy of this cast?
Can you? Yeah, I suppose you probably could. How would you make a copy of a footprint cast?
Yeah.
Test it again.
Yeah, you have to make a positive, then you make a negative. You have to do it twice.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Yeah, so it would take a little bit of time, but it could be done.
No, we still have some time, so maybe worth it.
Sure.
Inspector, what are your thoughts? I'm sorry, Inspector Hopkins, what is your thoughts?
Well, it's very weird that a person of this size gets away almost unnoticed.
That is exactly that's exactly my thoughts. I mean, someone this size is monstrous, to say the least. And in a town like this, I can't see how they could just move about without anyone noticing.
And the violence which the poor man was strangled. The power,
Yes.
the force that was used, it's horrific. This person must have been incredibly angry.
Inspector, suddenly I'm a little bit more interested in this case now.
So do the local police department have any other information? Nothing else?
That's it. That's all they have.
You know what I'd like to do is when we get back to London, if you could ask some of your colleagues, did they notice anyone in that train? Did anyone notice a very tall, very big man at that train platform?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. We definitely have to check for that.
How much time do we have before 5:30?
Let us see here. So you have a few hours. Yeah.
Hey, Inspector,
it's gonna take probably a couple of hours to do the cast. So,
I know Inspector. I know it would be Inspector Hopkins. I know it would be a shot in the dark, but would you like to go around a few of the local pubs here and maybe just ask about? I mean, it can't hurt.
Well, he's going to be helping to make this cast for the next couple of hours.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, I will go to a few of the pubs and just ask about.
Okay. Although I'm quite sure that the local police department here have done the same. They must have done a door-to-door investigation.
Well, I'm not a policeman, and so maybe someone will talk to me, and maybe I'll get lucky and ask the right questions. I mean, we still have a few hours anyway. What do I have to lose? I'll meet you back.
Okay, perfect.
Sorry, go ahead.
Perfect. I'll see you later then.
I'll meet you back at the train station at 5:30.
Okay. Good luck.
You too.
Okay, so now Von Zorn and Hopkins are both alone, essentially, away from the rest of the party, yes?
Because Zorn doesn't know this is Call of Cthulhu.
Yeah, I'm just wondering which
Yeah.
one you guys should kill first. I'll think about it.
Always kill Zorn first when in doubt.
Well, in fairness, Hopkins is at the police station with a bunch of other police around, so yeah, that's a good point. No, so yeah, Von Zorn, you'll go around for a couple of hours just asking around the town. But yeah, you're not going to get any other leads on who this individual is. Nobody reported seeing anything or anybody of that kind of size.
Right. Which is strange enough anyway. Someone that size would be noticed in this town. So that tells me something right there. I mean, you can't in the 1890s walk around at 7 foot and someone go, whoa.
Yeah. While you're continuing to help with the recasting, Stanley, the inspector, who's the officer, the constable who is in charge of the investigation, will say to you that it would seem that if this individual did indeed just show up on the night, enter the garden of Sergeant Major Crouch, strangle him to death in that garden, and then leave without taking anything, without even entering his home. The only thing that I get from all this is that it must have been a very personal attack. This person's only purpose was to kill the Sergeant Major. Nothing more.
Yeah, that's what I have in mind too. It boggles me a bit, to be honest.
Yet his family assures me that he didn't have any enemies.
No, but he was writing his memoirs, so I hope my
When
a friend of the family is over there now. Maybe they have some luck, and maybe he wrote something down.
Yes, I had to look through them. I didn't see anything very helpful in there, but perhaps your investigation will take you a different route. Maybe you'll find something that I missed.
do we before we leave the house of the colonel, do we know the exact day that he was murdered?
Of the Sergeant Major?
Yes. I'm sorry, the Sergeant Major.
Yeah, sure.
I'm trying to work out the correct way to ask, but would it be obvious to see where he was killed? I mean, is it a broken up part of the garden? Was there, a fight, that sort of thing?
Yeah, there probably is a bit. Yeah, you'd see impressions of the ground where, it's basically that's where the footprint is, and you can see basically where the Sergeant Major was. Looks like it was probably a pretty one-sided fight.
Right.
The only impression on the ground is of the Sergeant Major's body, essentially, as he was strangled and forced down and then left there.
In an effort to pay respects to him and his roses, of course, he's going to meander nearby and see if he can find anything that might have been missed because it was something of a natural nature, such as a feather, perhaps a large white feather, by any chance?
No, you find no large white feathers.
All right, very good. Just a thought. All right. Well, with the paperwork in hand and without any other recourses, unless the party members have something else to offer, then we will head back.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, I mean, anything else you guys want to do with the last couple of hours you have before you have to catch the train back, or?
I would like to have some dinner.
Yeah, you can do that. There's plenty of local, couple, restaurants and pubs and things of that sort. So.
Yeah, when Wilhelm was going around checking the pubs and taverns to see if they had any lead on a tall man.
Yes, and he said had no luck with that, unfortunately. They know lots of tall men, but nobody over 7 foot.
Oh, I know someone over 7 foot.
And nobody who would wear like a size 20-something shoe.
Yeah, I wonder what size shoe Loyal has.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I think Loyal's. I think this is suspiciously Loyal's almost exact size.
Who?
Loyal Gibbs.
Unfamiliar with the man.
He's a friend of the Hudson and Brand. He's a large, one might say, circus freak type of individual. He's nearly 8 foot tall.
Good Lord.
Yeah, he's a bit of a character that deals with transporting dead back and forth, cadavers for science and so forth.
Well, I suppose.
I believe we have him down as about 7.5 foot tall and 450 pounds.
Right.
That's insane.
You mean a perfect match for our suspect?
Mm-hmm. At least in comparative size. This is far, far, far away from where Loyal haunts, and he doesn't travel often.
Yeah, Loyal's in London, and Loyal doesn't travel far, and anywhere Loyal goes, he's usually noticed.
Of course. Because he's as ugly as he is big.
Which is why he usually wears a sack over his head,
Mm-hmm.
with just holes cut out for his eyes.
Which I'm sure is a common accoutrement of fashion these days.
Sounds charming.
All right, I head back to this train station if I find nothing.
Yeah, okay. So you guys can all get back to the train station to catch the 6 o'clock train back to London. It gets back to London around 8 o'clock at night in the evening.
Did you gentlemen find anything at the Sergeant Major's house?
Well,
Indeed.
we did secure his memoirs.
Oh. Anything interesting?
Oh, I haven't taken a chance to look at them yet. I just boxed everything up.
What about the
Quite extensive.
what about the house itself and the murder scene?
He had at least probably a 25-year career.
Right. Yeah,
What about-
fairly nondescript, typical wake. There was nothing out of place, out of sorts.
Well, we found the footprint of the assailant, and based on the footprint, and I believe our good Inspector Hopkins here has a cast, the person is probably over 7 foot tall and 400 pounds. And the neck of the good Sergeant Major was snapped almost clean in two. The amount of force is, should say, that used to kill the inspector was, shall we say, unusual at best. And this was done by someone who had a problem with the inspector, not a simple killing.
And
As I show,
go ahead.
as I show the cast around, I say it's clear that the assailant just came there, murdered the poor man, and left. So it was clearly very, very personal.
It's a huge cast as you guys look at this. You know, the boot cast, the boot print. If you imagine, if you ever seen like Shaquille O'Neal's shoes.
Yeah, I did. I've seen it. Yeah.
Bigger.
Wow.
I mean, Shaquille's only 7'1", 7'2".
Yeah, he's big, but that shoe is unbelievable. My suggestion was once we get back to London that we question Mr. Yard a little bit more about the circumstances of the death of the other soldier. Perhaps see if anyone noticed a 7 foot tall pedestrian in the crowd when he died.
I'm curious how a 7 foot individual moved around near the Sergeant Major's home, his town, and not be noticed.
Ruben, that was a question I had, but no answers yet.
Well,
Well,
the
there
murder
was a
did
witness.
occur at night, so
And there was a
Right.
witness.
Go ahead.
I'm just saying there was a witness who saw the man, so he didn't go unnoticed.
Well, I'm speaking more of the getting there, getting around, and then getting away. That seems fairly covert for a 7-foot man.
I asked the local, I went around to the local pubs and no one's noticed that. And we also asked the local inspector, did they check with the train station and notice anyone that's fitting that description leaving after murder? And he said no.
There can't be that many people on the island that are that large. Perhaps we could check with the Port Authority to see if anybody has traveled in that's that large.
Yes, and you have a little network of birds back in London. Perhaps they'll know something.
Sure. Could ask Loyal. I'm sure it's a small club being that large.
Loyal
Gibbs. The giant, the friend of the agency. He's a giant of a man. Have you not met him?
No, I don't. You keep talking about it every time he comes in. I'm gone. So, no, I haven't actually met him. I know you keep saying he's quite huge and scary.
He is by far the largest man you have met in your life. When you meet him.
Does he travel to Dover often?
No, he doesn't travel anywhere.
Well,
He's too large. He gets noticed. Hence my thought process.
Well, I will say I'm a little bit more interested in this case now, and if I can call it a case. But what really interests me is the amount of force that was used to break the Sergeant Major's neck. And my thoughts are correct. The Sergeant Major was not an easy target. He was a big man, big, strong man.
So, Uncle, in your travels, did you run into anybody that was as large as we speak of?
Certainly no. I would remember someone that size.
It is a curiosity, is it not?
Indeed.
But there is a matter of order here. Technically, we do not. This isn't a case that we looked into. No one's hired us. And I look at Alan. You wish to hire the services of Hudson and Brand to look into this?
Are you asking my uncle to support a case?
I'm asking him, does he want to hire us? Because technically, no one's hired us to look into this.
Well, I don't know. I mean, what makes you think it has to be looked into? That image, by the way, on my screen currently, that's Loyal Gibbs, the cadaver collector.
Yeah, I don't think Zorn actually met him yet.
That's fair enough.
Right.
Just thought I'd show you, so you'd be able to see. Like, you remember Bare Knuckle Bill, the prize fighter?
Yes.
Who was a pretty good sized man. That would be him probably standing next to him.
Wow. Okay, that's yeah. He was a bear of a man.
Roughly.
I say simply, Alan, it's just a matter of procedure. We have to be hired. Of course, you will get the relatives rate of 0 cost, but officially. So do you want us to look into this?
Well, I don't know. I mean, you think these two deaths were related, and you do think that this was an unusual occurrence.
You did note in the initial portion of our conversation that many of your friends, your former military mates, had fallen of late.
Well, just two. Two in a week.
That's what I was going to inquire. I did not want to press the issue.
Yes. I mean,
well,
Alan,
yeah. I mean, I guess if you think,
Alan, chances are this is simply an unavoidable coincidence. But there is the problem of this giant that seems to be able to come in and out and kill people at random.
Yes, of course. Well, yes, I think it is worth looking into. I mean, do you think I'm in danger?
It's a possibility, Alan. We don't know the motive of this murderer.
I can't see why. I've never done anything to anybody, except for maybe those Islamist bastards in in Egypt and the Sudan, but
It could be someone seeking revenge, but we won't know more until we do more investigation.
Yeah, maybe after all, these two cases aren't related
That's a good
at
possibility.
all. But
well, I
still,
think a
at
good place.
least
I think a good place to start to ask around maybe would be the Army and Navy Club at
Yes, of course.
36 Pall Mall.
Indeed.
Agreed.
It's just north of Buckingham Palace. It's not far from my shop either. The Colonel has been known to hang out there. Toby works there. And Major Gower also spends a lot of time there as well.
I extend my hand to Alan and say, so are we officially hired by you?
Of course. Yes.
I shake his hand. Then Hudson and Brand is on the case.
I feel safer already with such steadfast investigators on board, Mr. Von Zorn.
I laugh a little bit. Oh, you're serious? Okay. So I will simple chit chat, and I will try to help Oscar look through some of the manuscripts on the ride home.
Yeah, so you guys can look. You got a couple of hours ride back. I mean, you can look through some of them. It's going to take you a while to get through all of it. If you both look together, you could probably get through a perusal of the document the following day, if you spend all day at it.
I'm going in reverse chronological order. I'm not going to the beginning. I'm starting from the end and going back.
Yeah, no problem. I understand. So you guys get back to London about 8 o'clock at night. As prearranged, of course. Albert is there with the coach.
Okay. So why don't we meet tomorrow morning for breakfast at 8 at the Hudson and Brand, and find and we can get some sort of plan of operation. No?
Sounds good.
Yes.
yeah, indeed, sounds good.
That's gentlemen.
And Alan says, well, you'll know where to find me if you need me. I'm always in the Piccadilly Circus area, usually at the shop. If not, I should be in my apartment upstairs.
Alan.
Very good, Uncle.
Alan, do be careful for tall strangers. No?
Oh, believe me, I will have my eyes open.
And do you have a weapon of some sort?
Well, of course, yes. I have an old service revolver.
Good, good. Keep it close. Until the morning.
Indeed. Okay. So he gets dropped off at the Piccadilly Circus area. Does everybody else? Well, yeah. I suppose at least 3 of you, anyway, or 4 of you were staying at the agency, and I imagine that Oscar returns to his home. If you're there, America, I muted you. Sorry, had some weird sound coming through.
That's good for me.
Have they made the progress made on the files on the memoirs? Since it wasn't noted, Ruben will ask: Have we covered the time period around the Sudan and the Maoist
Only a portion of it.
revolt?
Only a portion of it.
Yeah, he's gonna give it a go. See if he can help him out with that section at least.
Okay, sure. Try and get through that section then that night.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty typical, military stuff. Nothing stands out to you. Nothing unusual. I mean, yeah, they fought a lot of the, the Islamic revolutionaries, killed a lot of them, and they also suffered a lot of casualties as well. But nothing jumps out at you as unusual or, supernatural or anything of that sort.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. So that'll keep you guys up well into the night, past midnight.
Very well then. Is curious. I'm gonna get in the first thing in the morning, early morning, which I assume the wasn't his name George, the first little kid that we were helping out?
Albie.
Albie. There we go. I'm assuming Albie comes around in the morning to check in if we need anything before heading out into his rounds.
Sure.
I'm gonna spread the word for them to get in touch with Loyal, although I know he freaks them out, and have Loyal get in touch with me.
Mm-hmm.
And had they seen anybody other than Loyal, or heard of anybody other than Loyal of that size, someone else of Loyal size?
Loyal size? No, sir. Only Loyal himself, of course. Never seen anyone else Loyal size.
Indeed.
Not even at the circus.
Speaking of the circus, is there a circus in town that we traveled through?
In London? There's
Right.
probably always a circus in town in London.
Well, throw them a few extra coins and tell them to take the boys by the circus to see if there's anybody big of note. Get back to me.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. Go keep an eye out. So it is the following morning now. Let's see here. This all started on Wednesday, October 1st. The funeral was on Thursday the 2nd. It is now Friday the 3rd.
I'm not trying to read too much into it. Let me check his background.
Whose background?
Check the morning papers.
Yeah, my guy, Ruben.
Yeah, nothing. No reports of new murders in the morning papers. You're glad to see. At least nothing beyond the
one of
casual knifing in Limehouse or something.
Right. And check the reviews.
Nothing regarding members of the First Buffs Battalion or whatever.
To that, I'll just read reviews.
Yeah, sure.
One of the focuses for Ruben was Egyptian lore and language. So I'm going to say it's somewhere close if we wanted to do any sort of roles. Is there somebody that he would have had contact with locally, even if it was for fencing or collecting or such like that, of an Egyptian,
interesting. Right. Somebody
a different angle. Yeah. Different way of looking at it.
What specifically again? Sorry, are you looking for somebody who is trying to fence things, or?
Well, specifically, that's the person he would know. He wouldn't know any imams or anything like that, but he would know somebody who was more into Egyptology, or a collector of Egyptian items, or someone who themselves were in and out of Egypt often.
Right. Okay.
And it might be more familiar with the Sudanese people, and maybe even have some more insider information to put some pieces together for Ruben rather than myself.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's a good line of inquiry. So that's what you're going to
silenced by the giant man.
Yeah.
All right.
What about everybody else? Anybody else wants to particularly look into the following day, Friday?
So yeah. I'd like to go to the yard and check if they, if anybody investigated the accident at the.
Sure, you want to look into the train crash? Yeah.
Yeah, and if there was any notice of a very tall man at the station, stuff like that.
Okay. Anybody else? Anything else that?
You just happened. Remember the things I was doing that 6 months. One of the things was donating to the military fraternities there, the Army Navy thing, just by chance. And I was wondering if I can make a contact there and ask them if I can come over tonight. Come over this afternoon, and I just want to talk around. Maybe
to the Army Navy Club.
Yeah.
Well, Alan is a member.
Oh well, can I go with Alan?
Yeah, Alan. If you talk to Alan, Alan says he'd be happy to take you there after the shop closes.
Sure. Let's
So
make
after dinner.
yes. Let's make a plan on doing that.
It's best anyway. You know, there's many more people there. Those at that hour. You know.
Right. Let's make a plan.
It's
on
open
doing
all
that.
day, of course, but yeah, not too many people go to the club for lunch.
Mhm. And let's make a plan on doing that. And
Okay, cool.
that's what Zorn will be doing.
Very good. Merrick, what's your luck score for Oscar?
Oscar's luck is 70.
So you do find some reviews of the current play, which is going on at the Ledger Domain, and unfortunately, it's getting politely panned by the critics as basically a lackluster effort that pales in comparison to previous shows. Perhaps the glory days of the Ledger Domain are in the past, and blah 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 blah. You know, it's kind of sensationalist bullshit. You know, sometimes some plays just aren't as good as other plays. You know, it's probably not
Right.
the end of the theater's good run. But
No,
yeah,
no.
unfortunately, the current production is not going over so well.
Maybe I'll have to head down there and see what's going on.
That said, your ticket sales are still selling out almost every show.
Excellent.
Um,
I'll drop by the theater then at some point today.
okay, so let's see here.
Stanley going to go to the train station or just to the?
No, to the Scotland Yard, to the police.
I'll go to the train station then, I guess.
Okay. What particularly do you want to do while you're at the train station?
Maybe talk to a ticket person, sells tickets, or if there's somebody in there that looks like they sell flowers or they sell this or that, maybe that might be a regular in there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And what kind of questions do you want to ask there at Charing Cross? You can talk to the ticket agent. You can talk to. There's probably somebody there who sells pasties and stuff. Basically, from the for most of the day, because people eat those all times of the day: breakfast, lunch, even dinner. If they're unable to get to a proper sit down meal, pasties are a nice handy thing to just grab and go. And the good thing is you can buy multiples, and you can eat them hot or cold. So.
Yeah, I'll start off with telling them that a dear friend of mine's comrade in arms was died here, and I was just trying to find out maybe a little bit more about the situation because it would help, be condolence the person, the friend, and kind of maybe relieve some of his anxiety of what had happened to his friend.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. Try to ingrate myself to him.
Yeah. Basically, it was ruled an accident. He just fell onto the tracks, unfortunately, just as a train was coming in. If you ask about people of size, he doesn't even. Oh no, nobody of that kind of stature has been seen around here that I'm aware of. No. It was fairly crowded at the time, but yeah, it was just apparently the man stepped too close to the edge, as unfortunately passengers often do.
Right. What time of night was it that happened? I don't remember what we talked about.
Oh.
Afternoon or evening or night?
It was in the afternoon.
Afternoon. Okay. Late afternoon?
Yeah, it was maybe between 2 and 3.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's pretty much what I wanted to do. Thank you.
No problem. Tom, you went to Scotland Yard.
Yeah, indeed.
And basically the inquest is already pretty much closed. It's just ruled misadventure, accidental death, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
What else did you want to look into?
I would talk to the investigating officer and, ask again if they have seen anyone of extremely tall stature.
Well, not in relation to the Charing Cross, but of course there is that the cadaver collector who works for the Royal College.
I see.
He sounds like somebody who'd fit that description.
Yeah, I think I've heard about that one. But,
Very
would be
terribly
unrelated.
man. Yeah, there's a. I'll just pull up the image of him again because I love it. Yes, Loyal Gibbs. From everything I've heard, though, he seems to be a rather gentle giant. I don't understand why he would. He didn't seem like the type who would be murdering people in the middle of the afternoon on a busy train station. No, he would have been noticed anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just that Dover, a former army colleague of this poor victim, has been brutally murdered.
Really? You think there might be a connection?
We're looking into it now.
I see. Well, I mean, if Mr. Gibbs had traveled down there, I'd imagine somebody would have been aware, unless he took a private coach or something.
Yeah, we're sure Mr. Gibbs is.
You may want to look into it, find out though, see if he has any alibis for the time, or.
Yeah, we will, but I'm
I
quite
certainly
sure
don't think
that
he was
he's,
involved in the incident at Charing Cross, though. He would have been noticed.
Yeah, he would have been noticed at Dover too, I think. Okay, well, I'll leave it at that. Thank you. I'll get back to you later if I.
This
have any
is
more
something you're
information.
working on with that agency, yeah?
Yeah.
I couldn't see Scotland Yard being involved in an investigation in Dover. That makes sense. Well,
Yeah, indeed.
Good luck, Inspector.
Thanks. Then,
How
talk
do
to
you
soon.
find it over there anyway? I've heard they're a bit kooky.
Well, so far I haven't noticed anything about that.
That German fellow and Carmichael, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, those they're quite friendly to be honest.
Oh. Well, you don't have to be an asshole to be crazy.
Well, I haven't seen anything weird around them, so might be useful to stick around a bit and see
I'm sure
how
it's a good experience anyway.
Yeah, I hope so.
Well, good luck with this personal investigation of yours.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll return to the headquarters then and.
Yeah, back to base of operations.
Yeah.
Ruben.
Hi.
You were asking about people trying to sell Egyptian goods and things of that sort, right?
Mm-hmm. Or yeah, that would have Egyptian contact. He's stuck on a penny dreadful that he had read about some curse of the mummy, and you remember there was a big mummy sort of thing, and he can't get it out of his head, so he's going to look for that, see if he can put anything to that just to get it out. It's stuck in his head now like a little worm.
Right. Okay. Give me. Let's see here. What skill do you think would be applicable in you trying to gather this kind of information?
Well, he's got his. He's got Egypt. He's got Egyptian language.
Mm-hmm.
He's got occult. He's got. What would be appropriate? They don't have carousing. I don't know. Want to combine two skills and go with the halfway between them? I don't know.
You don't have any kind of social skills, any kind of persuasion or fast talk?
His persuasion is not that high. His fast talk's not that high. He has he's more of a do it on his own sort of guy. You know, in the past, he hadn't really dealt a lot with people. That's how he made it as long as he did. He didn't have to rely on anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, no. He would probably, if it requires any sort of charm or persuasion or anything like that, he'd bring somebody along. Maybe an icebreaker. He could bring an Egyptian item of some sort to break the ice, and therefore use that as a segue. But other than that, it goes straight into intimidate, and that really wasn't his initial choice.
Okay.
But I will roll whatever you say.
Yeah, I can't see really as far as trying to ask around if anybody is trying to sell, because obviously, or are you looking for official channels?
No, he was going back to thinking about the contacts that he had from before.
Yeah.
That he had dealt with Egyptian artifacts before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, Stanton Renard would be useful in that kind of situation, I suppose. But he is not currently present. So I'm gonna call it. You know what? Give me a luck roll. What is your luck currently?
Luck. I have a fair number. I have a 57 currently.
Good. You're like the opposite of Von Zorn.
Right. So here we go. Rolling of the dice. And it had to come back up. 1 second. A 36, and I believe I had a 57. 57. 36.
Okay. I will let you roll a fast talk or persuade, your choice of the two, with a plus 20%.
Oh, okay. His persuade is the higher of the two. So here we go. I'm going to roll my 2 dice first. No, you said 20%, right?
Yeah. What's the skill at?
Okay, yeah, it's low. 10.
So you have 30%.
All right, so I got a 25, and okay, I don't have to take anything. I was going to take some luck off of it.
Nope. Yeah, that'll do.
25.
Okay. It takes you most of the day.
Okay.
So it's late into the afternoon. By the time you finally get in touch with a shady individual, again, it always comes back to Limehouse,
Right.
the future Chinatown, and you find a man who says, yes, there was a man who, geez, it's been a couple of years ago. Very, very nervous man who was selling a collection of gems and jewelry wrapped in leather and cloth. They were definitely Egyptian, and they sold for a lot of money. I know who bought them.
Do tell.
He may be able to tell you who it was that was selling them. They were bought by no nonsense Namdak.
Oh.
You
Well,
you know Namdak. What's his name?
yes, I am familiar with that person. Okay.
Namdak Ying. Yeah, that's his name. No nonsense Namdak, or no Namdak sometimes, or just no. Yes,
All right.
perhaps if you can find him, talk to him, he may be able to tell you who this man was who was selling these items. As I said, I only know that the sale was made. I know that Namdak was the buyer, and that it was a very, very shady deal.
Right.
That's something that the either man probably wanted the local constabulary to know about, if you know what I mean.
Of course.
Rubs his hands together, holds a hand out.
Right. I will tip him the appropriate amount for the information.
Okay. He says, your name is Reuben, correct?
Correct.
Yes, yes, I've heard of you. You're becoming quite famous around town.
Hopefully in a good way.
No, perhaps. All I will say is, well, when a man like myself hears of your name from his associates, well, a man should be very careful around London.
I see. In particular, from any particular direction?
Are you mean who is asking about you?
Indeed.
I can't remember.
Perhaps a good meal that I could purchase in advance might help. And he'll hand him a few more coins.
Oh, it would be a very expensive meal.
I see.
Not one that could be bought with shillings.
Well, that certainly would be worthwhile to me. What were you thinking of, sir?
I think 5 pounds.
5 pounds. What's 5 pounds in that time period? Is that like
It's a lot of money.
$500 or something like that?
It'd be like $20.
Oh,
But
okay.
in the 1890s, $20 is a lot of money.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what. Is this something that you can that I could actually call as concrete, or is this strictly rumor? That's a fair amount to ask for, my friend.
Oh, well, real information is expensive.
Indeed.
But I would not be so presumptuous as to sell a rumor for such an extravagant price.
Indeed. I was on my way to catch up with Loyal Gibbs, a very good friend of mine. And yes, I suppose I could perhaps offer 4. Would 4 pounds be enough? I need to save a little bit for the big man. He tends to get a little irritable.
He reaches out. Do you have 4 pounds out?
He will have the 4 pounds out,
Yes, that will do. And he reaches for them.
and he'll put it into his hand and hold it, as in like shaking his hand, but not release it. Firm grip.
The man who was asking about Reuben Carmichael of Golden Square was a man by the name of Timothy Carver, formerly of the Heligoland Company, and rumored, this one is a free bonus, it is rumored that he has come into the employ of the lady. And he tries to remove his hand with the money.
This would merely be a taste if you could provide a location for either of these individuals.
Oh, well, I do not know of a location for either individual currently, but if I find out, well, I know where to find you.
Indeed.
As do they.
It would be beneficial to us both if you found out sooner than later, my friend. Let one of my birds know.
Hmm.
He'll release his hand.
He'll slink away with the money,
Right.
ducking back down the dirty, dank alley that he came from.
So, Mr. Carver's still around. Very good. Well, he's going to make his way back to the homestead in the light of day, avoiding back alleys. Now, as far as his recollection, No is still alive, right? He wasn't killed in any of
No
our...
nonsense, Namdek. Yeah, he's still alive. He's working on becoming one of the most notorious crime lords in London currently. Slowly building his little Cho-Cho empire.
I see. Okay. Well, I think I've got a bargaining chip for no. Are any of the birds that we've got, are they of an ethnic persuasion that would allow them to have access to no without being noticed per se?
No.
Yeah.
No.
It was an odd thought.
And they tend to avoid him and his people because,
Of course, yeah, that's what I was asking. So,
if you were to send any of your little birds his way, you would not be surprised if you never saw them again.
Right? Yeah,
No, I'm not saying you can't do that. Just
no.
You know what could happen if you did.
Yeah, no, trust is what he's trying to keep with these little guys. He don't want to get them killed. He wants them to grow into a small army of sorts.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, you can head back to Golden Square.
Right. I'm going to have to come up with a way of dealing with no on neutral grounds.
Mm-hmm. And
mull that over.
And Oscar, you said you were swinging by the
Yeah, swing by the theater.
Yeah. Yeah. It's business as usual. It's running smoothly. You've got a good staff. You can afford to pay good people.
Of course.
Like I said, they're not too bothered about the somewhat negative reviews.
Yeah.
I mean, they weren't completely panned. It was just saying that it was a disappointing compared. It's not what it used to be, but the people are still coming. So, and even those reviews, that's still exposure. That's keeping our name in the paper.
And that reviewer is kind of a cunt anyway. So,
woo!
Wow.
Kiss your mother with that mouth.
Mm.
That's not as bad of a term in England.
In Victorian England, people were maybe a little more polite, but yeah, it's fair enough. Well, it's okay.
I'm behind scenes with my staff, so
exactly.
I'll talk how I want to talk.
But yeah, otherwise everything seems to be above board and normal at the Leisure Domain.
Fantastic. That's what I like to hear.
You can check your mail. It's typical normal stuff,
Yep. All right. I'll figure out what else I'm going to do with the rest of my day.
Okay. So in the afternoon, anyway, everybody else is back at the agency, I think. Yeah.
Are we all meeting up there or something?
Yeah.
Why not?
Did you set a meeting time, Wilhelm?
I actually didn't for the morning. I mean, for the afternoon. For the morning, I said, let's just meet at 8.
8 at night, yeah. 8 p.m. Is that what you said? Okay, yeah. So yeah, there's nothing in the afternoon. So
I'll head over there then after business is finished, whatever business they have at the theater.
Cool.
And again, it's just that what's going on now, there's not a sense of urgency because we still got one murder and one, so far we can't prove not accidental murder. So it's, it wouldn't be like, oh my God, it's not like Wales. It's not like the Wales thing,
I understand. So you're back at 33 Golden Square. This evening, you're supposed to meet up with Alan. Oh, maybe.
Well, we're supposed to go to the Army and Navy Club in the afternoon after dinner.
Right. Let me pull up my little map here that I have. Don't I have a map here somewhere of London? Yeah, that's what I want. So let's see here. Okay, so you guys are here in Soho. Where is the Pall Mall? All of that. Army Navy Club is there. Oh, it's not terribly far from where you guys are either, for that matter. Neither is Alan's shop. It's all relatively close to you. Let me see if I can pull this up for y'all to see. All right. That's enough of you, Loyal. Get out of here. We'll see you next week.
He may be as big as London, but he's not a map.
No, he's not. I'm going to do a little screen capture here. Right. Okay. So let's go something like that will do for now. Oops. Did it not work? It didn't work. Hold on. Screen capture. Smart selection again. Yeah, something like so. Get my stupid mark off of there. There you go. Okay, so if you were to look at this map, you can see Soho. That's where you guys are. You can see number 1 on the little map there. Kind of not too far from where the National Gallery is. Number 1 there is where Alan's shop is. Number 2 is where the Army and Navy Club is.
And Charing Cross right there is where the guy was thrown off in front of the train.
That is true. Yep, Charing Cross you can see there as well. Indeed.
Okay, so we're just waiting for like the proper time. Alan say, okay, this is the proper time, and head over to the Army Navy Club.
Yeah. Oops, sorry. So let's see. You probably want to meet him at the shop for closing. Yeah. Probably closes up at about maybe 6 o'clock. Yeah, 6 o'clock in the evening sounds good.
Yes.
And then you can head to the Army Navy Club. So I will get rid of that because I need to. Oh yeah, hold on. Before I do that, let me just remove that. I'm still learning how to do this little that little aspect of XSplit, sharing an active open window and stuff without screwing up and showing too much. So on to the Army Navy Club. Who's going, by the way, with Alan?
Well, I know I am. I don't know about anyone else.
So like I said,
I'm going with.
it is at 36 Pall Mall, just north of Buckingham Palace. It's amid many other gentlemen's social clubs. The club that you hang out at often is probably around there too. Did you say you go to a sportsman's club?
Sportsman Lodge or something like that.
It's probably in the same neighborhood. So the Army Navy Club membership is, of course, limited to people who have served in Her Majesty's Armed Forces, roughly 2,400 members. So, okay, so we've got Stanley and Wilhelm going. Yeah?
Alan, yes.
With Alan, of course. Cool.
I can't really see why I would be going. So,
no, fair enough. Okay, there we go. Okay. And so, like most gentlemen's club, it has a library, a reading room, a billiards and game room, a bar, dining room, private conference rooms, some overnight guest rooms. It's full of trophies and battle memorabilia, weapons, maps, regiment flags, paintings, portraits, etc. Countless souvenirs from foreign lands. So when you guys arrive, you are, of course, met by a doorman. Alan will, of course, be recognized as a member. And so you will be allowed to enter as guests of his. Do you have any military service, by the way, Stanley? Just out of curiosity.
No.
Okay, just asking. Cool. So Alan will say, yes. So I can introduce you to some people, but I suppose you'll want to speak to Major Gower and perhaps Toby Norton as well.
Yeah, let's start there.
They're members of the First Buffs.
Yeah, let's start there.
Which would you like to speak to first? Toby works here, and the Major, he's a member of the aristocracy, you understand? So,
Well, let's try the Major first. The Major will be Toby will be here for a while because he works here, and
Sure.
the Major may leave early.
Okay. Well, the Major very rarely leaves early, I can tell you, but yes, he's usually found in the billiards room this way. Would you like something to drink?
Yes, of course. Get yourself something too, man.
So everything is sold at cheap prices here, basically like almost wholesale prices.
Okay.
You know, for club members and stuff like that. That's the point of the club. Dinners here, you can get some of the best dinners in London in these clubs for relatively low prices as well. So yeah, you guys get a couple drinks. Alan for sure gets an ale. And we'll lead you to the billiards room, where you will find the Major there, currently playing a game of billiards with another gentleman. Both of them are well. I'll just describe the Major first. So Major John Gower is short, stout, middle-aged. He has ruddy features and a bushy beard and mustache. Just as you see him as you're kind of walking in, he seems to be good-natured, kind of garrulous. Yeah. And Alan will walk in and approach him. He'll say, Major Gower, it's good to see you, sir. And he'll turn and kind of look at Alan and stare at him for a moment, almost as if he's not quite sure who he is. He says, it's Alan Pace, sir. He says, ah, yes, of course. Alan from Egypt. Yes, the first buffs. Good to see you again, sir. Would you like to play a game of pool, perhaps? We can play doubles. Me and my man here, and you and one of yours. Who are your friends here? And Alan was. Oh, let me introduce. This is
Herr Wilhelm von Zorn, 1st Pomeranian Dragoons, 3rd Regiment, at your service. And do the Prussian, heel click.
Oh, well, I see. A pleasure to meet you, sir. He says, kind of a little bit suspiciously.
I shake his hand warmly.
And this is Stanley Hopkins, a junior investigator or junior inspector from Scotland Yard. And he looks and says, "Oh well, to what do I owe the pleasure of a visit from a Scotland Yard inspector, sir?"
Well, unfortunately, we're looking into the deaths of 2 of your colleagues from your battalion, sir.
Oh, yes, I see. Yes. I heard about Sergeant Major. I sent some flowers, a wreath of flowers with Toby for the funeral. I had business to tend to here. I could not attend. And who was the other one?
The other one was Reginald, Orland Reynolds.
Orland Reynolds. Orland Reynolds. It doesn't ring a bell. What happened to him?
Oh, apparently he fell in front of a train.
I see.
An unfortunate way to end your life.
Indeed, yes. Well, that's a terrible business, but I don't see how that would have anything to do with the major being strangled to death in his garden, the sergeant major.
Major, can we buy you a drink and can we have sit down and discuss this? We wouldn't want everyone to hear it.
Absolutely not. I will be buying the drinks.
Excellent.
I would not expect 2 gentlemen of such meager means to be buying drinks for myself.
Of course. Major, after you, Major.
So, what is it you do, Mr. Von Zorn? You look a bit soft for being a soldier currently. I assume you're retired.
Of course. I am retired, Major. But I am Prussian, so the word soft does not really come into our vocabulary.
Yes, of course. Yeah. I've heard that about your people.
I laugh with them. I say it as a joke. You know.
Yes.
I go, I'm here representing the Hudson and Brand investigation. We're assisting Scotland Yard in this investigation.
I see. So it's a full-on investigation then. We have Scotland Yard and the Hudson and Brand.
Hudson and Brand. Yeah, I give him one of our cards.
Oh. Inquiry agents of the obscure.
Yes.
Oh.
Two good men died, and we want to ensure that whatever the cause, that justice is being served. They deserve nothing less.
Yes, of course. Well, I don't know that I can be of much help to you. I haven't really kept in touch with either of them. I don't even remember this. This. What did you say his name was? Orlando something?
Well, actually, I think we're here more to ask you about the unit, sir. We're following a line of investigation to see if the unit which is the one thing that connects both of these men, would there be anyone to have a grudge against your unit? Perhaps one of the natives that you had to deal with?
Yes, yes. Oh, the army days. They were glorious days indeed. I particularly enjoyed playing cards with the other officers. Something that I do occasionally as well here in the club. Yes, I remember all of the officers quite clearly. Hollingsworth, he is a throwback to the knights of old, a dedicated and knowledgeable warrior. We are still friends, although I haven't seen him in more than a week.
Holly, does he live here in London?
Yes, he has an estate in Hampstead, north of London. He was our commander in those days.
Okay.
I've had very little contact really with other members of the old regiment. I'm occasionally running into them here, just like today with Adam here. Alan, sir. Yes, Alan here.
We just wanted some of the background of the unit, especially the the fortunate fact that the massacre at Khartoum, and that your unit was fortunately not a part of that. Can you tell us that?
Yes, well, fortunate not to be a cartoon, but we were not there because of our own misfortune, really. We had lost too many men, and we were withdrawn before that dark business took place.
So when you lost your men, can you tell me a little bit about that?
You know how it is. You've fought in wars, have you not?
Yes. Was there anything unusual through the whole thing? Any enemy that may hold a grudge enough to follow you here? Because the sergeant major, his death wasn't a death of normal malice. It was one of passion.
Really? Why do you say that?
His neck was
He was
snapped
strangled.
almost with unusual strength. His windpipe was completely crushed. And as you know, the sergeant major was no small man, no weak man.
Right.
And it was said that the assailant was perhaps close to 7 foot tall, if not bigger.
Really?
Yes.
Who said that? I have not heard anything about that.
We have our official line. We have our official ways of looking into the line.
Oh, of course you are. You are investigators and all that, or pardon, inspector and an investigator. So I suppose you have better lines than I have. I don't know what I can tell you.
And to be honest, Major, I'm telling you this under strict confidence. You understand this is police business.
Oh, I see. Well,
yes, and I tell you this too because there is one line of thought that someone may have a problem with your unit, and they've already, if that's correct, they've already killed 2 members of your unit, and well, it would be only a matter of time before they reach the cadre, the officer cadre.
Ah, well, I see. Yes, they did kill the sergeant major.
So I tell you this under confidence, but also just to let you to be on the guard. One old soldier to the other.
I see. Well, I do appreciate the heads up, the information, but I think I'm rather safe here. I stay in busy places, surrounded by my friends and former colleagues.
Of course, Major. But the real reason we're here too is just to find out: is there anything you can shed light? Anything unusual that the unit may have gone through? Any person you may have thought that would hold such a grudge against your men?
Well, the only thing I find unusual right now is that you haven't broken those balls yet, sir. It is your break.
Of course, sir. And I go play pool. Snooker.
Yes, no, I'm sorry. I'm afraid there isn't much that I can tell you that'll be of any use. Nothing unusual happened in my time. Nothing that I'm aware of. No. It was business as usual, a filthy, hot, stinking desert full of savages who want you dead. business as usual in Her Majesty's Armed Forces.
Of course.
I see. It's a shame you can't help us any further.
I'm sorry?
Well, it's a shame that you can't help us any further in our investigation.
Yes, indeed. Indeed it is.
Young Inspector Hopkins, perhaps it would be, well, I play snooker here with the Major. Perhaps it would be a better use of your time if you go find our other young man in question. Maybe you'll have better luck with him than I.
Yes, perfectly. I'll get right onto that.
Very well. So yeah, the Major and his partner will continue to shoot pool with Von Zorn and Alan. So you are looking for Toby then?
Yeah,
Stanley?
indeed.
You'd met him at the funeral, of course, the day before, so you know what he looks like. It won't be too hard for you to find him. Let me see. Oh, actually, I do still have an image of Toby, which I'll pop back up on the screen again. That is the wrong folder. This is the correct folder. Good old Toby.
Poor man with a
Sort of
bottle.
flattering looking picture, isn't it? Yep.
Of course, he must be important because he actually got an illustration and the Major didn't. So,
Well, they can't draw everybody. Budgets for these things, right? So Toby, he's small, thin, kind of rat-like, very sharp features. He's in his late 30s, but he looks to probably be in his late 40s, basically by the hard life combined with hard drink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Norton, good evening.
Oh,
Well,
yes. I'm sorry, I don't recall your name.
Hopkins, Stanley Hopkins.
Stanley.
From Scotland
Stanley,
Yard.
please, call me Toby. Mr. Norton just sounds weird. Wait a minute.
Okay.
I'm not under arrest, am I?
Of course not, Toby. Of course not.
Good.
We were just wondering about, the unfortunate events of this week. Two of your colleagues coming to an untimely end. We
Yes, Orland and Sergeant Major Crouch. Terrible business.
Yeah, you wouldn't have happened to have heard anything more about these events?
What do you mean? Like what?
Well, we were questioning the local police department about Sergeant Major's death, and apparently he was killed quite violently.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't just strangled; he wasn't even robbed or anything. He was just murdered brutally. His throat was crushed, and one of the neighbors mentioned seeing a very tall man in the neighborhood.
A very tall man.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't have.
See, that description certainly doesn't apply to me, sir. So I can tell you I had nothing to do with it.
No, absolutely. You wouldn't have happened to have seen anyone conforming to that description. Someone over 7 foot tall.
Give me a psychology roll.
Okay.
God, this is the first psychology roll of the night, and that's been one of the most commonly used skill throughout this campaign. But
where is this? Ooh. $42, that's a regular success.
so he looks really kind of nervous and sketchy, and you get the strong feeling that he's got a lot of things running through his head at once. Like he's probably hiding something. He's probably not saying something. But yeah, he says, "Well, there is one thing I've noticed kind of strange recently. It's the Colonel, Colonel Hollingsworth. He hasn't been around in a little over a week now. In fact, he hasn't been around since the day before Orland fell in front of that train. And he didn't come to the Sergeant Major's funeral either, which I found rather odd. So, well, it's damned strange. He, well, yeah, he's a beast of a man, the Colonel. He, very hard, very cruel. I don't know. I'm not saying that he killed Orland or Sergeant Major Crouch, but well, it seems awfully strange that he hasn't been around since these deaths started to occur. He's not around today
Yeah,
either.
does seem like a rather unfortunate coincidence, indeed. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. Anything else you think is worth mentioning?
No, but well, if something comes up,
You-
I could contact you. Do you have a card?
Yeah, I suppose I would have a card with my details at Scotland Yard.
He looks at that and says, "You didn't tell me you were an inspector."
Well, it's not like this is a formal investigation, Toby.
I see.
After all, you're not under arrest or anything.
Well, that's
remember?
good, as I didn't have anything to do with it. I didn't kill anybody. Well,
You also
at least
wouldn't
not
have
since the army days.
You wouldn't happen to have any idea if the Sergeant Major had enemies?
Well, no, not that I know of. But well, we hadn't really been in touch much since he retired in Dover, and I'm here in London.
I see. Well, thank you for your time.
Well, good luck with your investigation. If anything else happens or comes up, I'll be sure to let you know, Inspector.
Thanks, and have a good night.
You too.
Thank you. I'll go back to Wilhelm then, and tell
Sure.
him about what Toby told.
And I tell you, Major, you will never see in your lifetime the German Empire ever think of attacking Great Britain. It's impossible.
Well, you're damned right it's impossible. It wouldn't stand a chance.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't go that much, but I tell you, there would never be a war between us. Never.
We would simply throw beer at your men until they fell down in the fields and then slit their throats.
Well, if we cut off your supply of tea, you would crumble in days.
Well, last I saw, India was part of the British Empire, so good luck with that, sir.
Yeah, for now. Inspector,
I can't
yeah.
believe you won another game.
Inspector Hopkins, any luck?
Well, the Germans may not be able to fight very well, but they sure can play pool, I'll give you that.
Well, I would say this. The British has horrible food, but their hospitality is on par to anyone.
Hear, hear.
Here, sir. Inspector Hopkins, how goes your inquiry?
Well, I share all the information I got from Toby about the colonel, which
What time
being
is it?
absent. Colonel
By
Nicholas
time-
Hollingsworth.
Let me see here. It was 6 o'clock when he closed up the shop. You guys got here probably a little before 7. So it's now about 8 o'clock.
It sounds like we need to make a visit to the colonel.
Yeah, I think everything is well. Some things are pointing in his way, his direction. Certainly won't hurt to give him a visit.
Perhaps in the morning?
Excuse me?
Perhaps in the morning?
Yeah, that's probably a better time than to drop by at this late an hour.
Yes, yes. And I'll inform the rest, and perhaps we can all go
And
to
you
the
see
front.
the major has made his leave, just as basically shortly after the inspector came back in. After you beat him at that game of pool, he took one last shot of whiskey, and then he departed for the night.
Yes. So let's go back to 33rd Golden and inform the others and make our plans for tomorrow morning. Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay.
Okay. That's good.
So you guys are going to leave to start making your way back to 33 Golden Square. Where's my London map again? Hold on a second here. Oh, there it is. Let's see here. Right. Okay. So you go back to 33 Golden Square, and I can assume everybody's there. It's after 8 o'clock at night anyway. So obviously, Von Zorn and Stanley are a little bit late for the appointed 8 o'clock meeting back at the agency, but they get there before 9 anyway. Smelling a little bit of alcohol, I presume, as well. But yeah. But you're all gathered back at Golden Square. Oh, here, Golden Square. There it is.
Gentlemen, I basically go through what we found at the Army Navy Club, and I am suggesting that perhaps we need to pay the Colonel a visit tomorrow morning, Saturday morning.
Yeah, he's been weirdly absent since before the first accident. The day before the first accident, he has stayed absent from the club. He wasn't at the funeral. He wasn't at the club today, so
Interesting.
Yes, if Renault was here, I would suggest that he survey the house. He would survey the house tonight before we go in, just to see if there's any weirdness going on. Actually, yeah, maybe we should do that anyway.
I mean, it's its own house, right? Or does he live in a complex?
No, it says it's an estate.
Why not just take a carriage and ride past and take a look as you go?
Well, sometimes it's pays to hang out for a while, as the Americans say, scope out the place. Yes, I don't.
oh, we can do that.
I mean, I just think maybe based on our previous experiences, sometimes a little pre-knowledge, reconnaissance helps.
Sure. A bit of safety precaution is always good.
Gerard?
That's fine.
Yes. And so perhaps a couple of us can go over and just take a look.
Very good.
Ruben, are you going to share anything from your day's adventure or no?
No, not at the moment. He
Okay.
does have to get to a meeting though, so that's what I was waiting to jump in there. If I can find an intermediary to speak with No instead of just walking in, that's what I would like to do.
Yeah, you don't just walk in on No anyway. You can't.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You can't-
And what I would like to
You
do
can't find them
is
without going through intermediaries.
I would like to find a location just outside of his realm of control, a tea house or something like that to meet at. I'm looking for a reliable third party to hold an item for me that he could turn and deal with afterwards. You know, like rather than putting it in the bank and putting it into a safe deposit box or something like that. Whatever the underworld version of that would be.
Some kind of an item.
One of my personal items,
Right.
I'd like to put in the hands of somebody else, so that if he ends up wanting it and the deal goes south, he doesn't come to the house looking for it.
Okay. What kind of item are you talking about?
The Chocho head.
Oh, right. Yes. Sorry, the shrunken head. Forgot about that for a moment. Okay. Well, who do you want to give it to?
That's what I mean. I guess I would go through Reynard.
Okay, to see if you can get something, someplace to hide, to hide.
Well, no, whatever the underground version of a bank would be to hold stuff. You know, the intermediaries, the neutral parties that people could do this sort of stuff with.
Mm-hmm.
If there is anything, if there's not, then I'll just deal with it.
Okay. Yeah, that you have to meet up with Renard or somebody else in that circle to try to organize.
How about
that stuff? Say again, Rob.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Okay.
How about the guy that translated the book for you before?
Yeah, Reynard found him for us. He was a twat.
Okay.
He wanted to steal our book, so no, I don't want to deal with him.
Oh, okay.
Okay, well, I'm going to get word to, without having to know this person, without having Reynard on hand, I'm going to get word to someone close to the edge of no-nose territory and have them pass information to get word back to me that I want a meeting to exchange an item for information.
Okay. Do you make it known what that item is?
No.
Just you want to
an item of personal interest.
Okay. It's important to know how this is all worded.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to exchange that for information. Okay.
Correct.
Yeah, you can get so you're gonna go out basically to get this message passed around. So you can walk down to like near Lambeth, Limehouse area, whatever, and start doing that.
Right.
Who is going out to check out Kandahar House? That's out in Hampstead. So again, let me go back to my map again. Let me see here. Where is that map? Oh, there it is. Now let's bring it down like this. Let's go over here again. Let's do this again. Screen capture, smart selection. Right. Something like that. So we're to do something like this. So again there, you can see Soho here where you are. And Hampstead, you'll see in the far upper left corner. Mm-hmm. Out in Hampstead is, in fact, probably number 4 is where the Colonel's estate is. So it's a good ways out.
Well, have Markham get the carriage. I'm definitely going. I'm going to slip into some dark clothing and bring my spyglass and my trusty pistol. Yeah. Anyone coming with me?
Yeah, it's an estate, so it's probably rather big. So I think it's best if we go with a few of us.
No. Okay. Well, I certainly want to go. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'll join you.
Okay. Oscar?
I'm reluctant to do such a thing. I'm not very good at sneaking around in the dark like that.
I completely understand.
Throw me in a stage full of lights and I can disappear in a second, though. That's not quite my forte.
Yeah, understand. Gerard? Well, it looks like it's you and me, Inspector.
Okay.
Well,
so that would leave Gerard and Oscar at the house.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool.
I'll be sure to bring my firearms and.
Sure. I guess you could get Albert. It's a bit of a long travel for the coach, but yeah, he could drive you out to Hampstead.
Right.
He lives to serve, and he gets paid well. He's on retainer.
And get there, we'll just we'll take we've got my spyglass. We'll survey at a distance, and if we see anything unusual, we may get a little closer.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
The game's afoot.
Good. So you guys it's gonna take you a little while to get out there. The Ruben is, of course, in going down towards Limehouse to try to get the message out that he wants to meet up with No Namdek. So while Oscar and Gerard are at the house, alone, except for, of course, with Markham, there will be a knock on the door. It's the kind of secret knock that is used by the little bird messengers that are employed in the agency. And Markham will answer it, and Albie will come rushing in and say, "Albie, I must speak with Mr. Carmichael or Mr. Van Zorn immediately." Of course, to which Markham will say, "Oh, I'm very sorry, young Master Albert, but they're both out on business at the moment." He says, we've been keeping an eye out for things, as I said, and well, there's some kind of a disturbance not too far from that Army-Navy club that Mr. Van Zorn was at earlier, near Buckingham Palace.
What sort of disturbance?
Well, a man has been killed.
Oh,
A military man.
really?
Yes. I'm sorry, I don't know you very well. What was your name again?
Oh, my name is Oscar. I'm a friend of Mr. Brand.
Yeah, you work here, right?
No.
You, Gerard. I remember you. Well,
Yeah.
you should come at once.
What do you say? Let's go.
Yes, that's fair.
Quickly. He's like, I have a cab outside. I don't really have the money to pay him. Do you have any money?
No worries.
Okay, good. I told him I was going to pay him after he was done.
Shall we?
Okay. So he will take you to... Where is the place? So... Yeah, kind of near Belgrave Square, about 100 yards from there, which is where Major Gower's mansion is here in London. So approximately, and you notice it is extremely foggy as well out as you're kind of arriving on the scene. So yeah, it's about 100 yards from his house. When you get there, you'll see the police are still there. The major is impaled on a pair of spikes. Or not a pair of spikes, sorry, impaled on a fence, a spiked iron fence. In fact, I think I have an image here which I can show you. Yes. This is basically the scene you arrive upon.
Oh my, how brutal.
Indeed.
Yeah, that fog is terrible.
Yeah.
Did he fall from above? Like, take a look above.
Yeah, so as you kind of approach, a police inspector will kind of stop you. Excuse me. He says, this is a crime scene. And you can hear the major kind of gasping in pain. He's still alive.
Have I met the major?
Major Gower? No. Only Von Zorn, Allen, and the Stanley met him earlier.
Okay.
He's the one that they were speaking to and playing pool with at the club.
Right.
You know that they went and talked to him at the club, of course.
But I don't know that this is that major, right?
No, I suppose you probably. Well,
He would know the name, but he wouldn't.
yeah, you wouldn't necessarily know that this is the man yet. No.
Gotcha.
How close are we to where his body is again?
Kind of like, imagine that picture is where you're standing. That's from your perspective.
So if I yelled out the tall man, would he be able to hear me? If he's
If you
alive?
yelled out the tall man.
Yes.
Well, yeah, in theory, his eyes are still open. They're moving a little bit. His mouth is moving a little bit. And this gentleman here, holding the notepad, says, "Excuse me." He says, "Did you witness anything? Did you see the crime happen?"
No, but there's a suspicion among the so-called accidental deaths of his comrades in arms.
Well, give me sanity rolls, by the way, both of you, as you see him there.
Let's see here. I don't have the best sanity.
Welcome to the club.
No, fail.
How did you do, Rob? Whew. Oscar, you lose 3 sanity points anyway from just the stress of seeing this man impaled up on this spiked fence. How did you do on your sanity roll, Rob? You are muted.
I rolled a 12.
Okay, yeah, so you don't lose any.
Okay.
You're good. So yeah, and the officers are still kind of arguing over what they can do to get the man down.
Was there any reaction from?
Basically, 2 of the spikes are protruding from his chest, and the third one is kind of like through his is it right shoulder, left shoulder? I guess, yeah, that would be his right shoulder. It says here, but it looks in the picture like the left shoulder. So we'll say left shoulder. Say again.
Was there any reaction when I yelled out the tall man?
Yeah, the inspector. Well, the major's eyes look at you and open wider, and the inspector says, "Excuse me, sir. This is what are you doing? Who is this tall man? You said you didn't witness anything."
No, I did not witness anything here, but there was another, as I said, of his comrades in arms murdered, and it was a tall man, according to a neighbor.
Mm-hmm. And so finally, they bring over a ladder, and one of the bobbies climbs the ladder to try to get the man down, and he groans and moans loudly again. Give me another sanity roll, both of you.
Yeah. Oh, that's a fail again.
You lose 1 more point of sanity.
Oh, joy. Witnessing
the agony that he's in as this guy's trying to pull him off of this wrought iron spike.
If that had been my first roll, I would have passed.
And Rob, if you failed, also you can lose 1 point of sanity. If you've passed, there's none. And then I'd like you both to make listen rolls. See if you can hear what he's trying to say.
Oh, I actually have points in that.
Good, good.
That is a success.
Good. And Rob, if you made a success, you'll also make out the words. If not, then not. But yeah, you hear him as he's kind of moaning, trying to say something. You hear him say, "Abaddon, but it was real, alive, Abaddon." And then he moans loudly again and goes silent.
How horrid.
Okay.
I don't know that there's much we can really do here then.
No. Like, if you convince the inspector that you didn't see anything or anything like that, they'll probably ask you some questions.
Sure.
Especially after guy calling out about the tall man. Who is this tall man? What were you talking about?
Yeah, give him the name Antonio Benedetti if he asks me who I am.
Okay. That's your real name, no?
Well, that's my father's name.
Gotcha.
So he's asking us who is the tall man? Is
Yeah,
that
he's
what
asking you because you called out. He's like, "Who is this tall man you're speaking of? Speak, damn you, or I'll haul you in for
Sure.
something."
Well, sir, I explained it just a minute ago. There was a tall man apparently involved in the murder of one of his comrades. A comrade in arms, one of his soldiers that he served
What
with.
comrade at arms are you talking about? How do you know all of this?
I work for an investigative agency.
Indeed.
Which one?
What's the name of it? I'm sorry.
Hudson and Brand.
Hudson and Brand.
I'm sorry. Okay, so I tell him that.
Hudson and Brand. Ha! Have they solved anything yet?
Yes, we just got our client killed. But yes,
You're not there.
We solved a bunch. We just can't talk about it.
There's many things that's been solved, sir.
Well, don't worry. This is in the hands of Scotland Yard now.
We're better off for it being so.
Indeed. Well, if you don't know anything of any value, then I would appreciate you leaving my crime scene so that we can clean up this mess.
Of course, Inspector. Forgive us. Come along, boy.
Go
And I
go play investigator elsewhere.
grab him, Rob by the arm, and drag him away.
Yeah,
Give him like a skeleton look.
Gerard.
Sorry.
That's okay.
So get away from there and like, oof, what a stick in the mud.
Yeah.
Did you hear what he said?
Yeah.
And you can kind of hear him. So, oh, just leave him there. He's dead already. Leave him there until Inspector Craddock arrives. He'll want to see this anyway.
Let's get back to the gold circle.
The Golden Square.
Gold square.
The agency. Okay.
Let's head back there. I wonder what this Abaddon thing is he was mumbling about.
Maybe, have you seen anything close to that in any of the journal that the other day I had? The other soldier?
I really haven't looked through it much at all. I just packed it up and brought it here. Carmichael was the one who was going through it.
Maybe Mr. Zahn, they may have some kind of reference material that we're not privy to. That may have some of that, yeah.
Could very well be. Well, let's head back to the house and
Sure.
maybe skim through the papers a bit.
Sure.
Okay. Von Zorn and Hopkins, you guys arrive at Kandahar Estate, which I've just put a little map up on the screen there of the grounds, the estate, the house, etc. As you can see, it is pretty expansive, with a large gate out front, a lot of trees, ornamental gardens, ponds, all kinds of things on the property.
how tall are the walls?
I don't know. Let me see here.
I mean, can we see over them or climb a tree to look over them?
So Kandahar House is an impressive 3-story house. But that's the actual house itself. What about the estate? Is there any information here about the estate itself? So it's several acres of land just northwest of Hampstead. It's an 8-foot high brick wall, in fact. There's a single gate in the front, which opens onto a circular drive. The house itself is roughly at the center of the enclosure. So really, no, you can't really see without climbing over.
Can see through the gate,
Or
right?
going up to the gate and looking through, yeah.
I'm motioning to the coach, and I say, drop us off here, come back in about an hour. Don't go too far away. If you hear my whistle, you know to come running. Just like
Absolutely, Mr. Van Zorn.
all right. Inspector, I'm going to take up position directly across the gate and try to spy around with my spyglass for a while. What about you?
Okay. Can I walk around the property without invading in the neighboring properties, actually, or?
Oh, well, actually, no. Nope. Now you would have to go onto the other neighboring properties in order to do so, to walk around it. These are all like rich people.
Yeah. Probably maybe even have guard dogs.
It would be
around.
very bad for your reputation and your career if you were to be caught trespassing out here
Yeah.
on any of these people's houses and properties.
I know. Well, I'll let Willem check if he can see anything from his position. And if not, maybe we can lift one of us up and take a look over the walls.
Well, I'm going to look through the gate with my spyglass first and see if we notice anyone there.
Oh yeah, there's definitely people home. There's lights on inside.
So there are. So it's not abandoned or
Oh,
anything.
not at all. No. It's really nice looking. Like I said, it's a 3-story house. There's the brick wall. There's a gate in front. There's the circular drive, which goes around the kind of pond there, right in front of the house, with even like a fountain there in the pond.
Is the gate open like it is on the picture?
No, it's not. You can't really see too much of the ornamental gardens behind the house, unfortunately. But you can see some of the trees and stuff on the property. You can see there's a carriage house and stables there. You can even get a glimpse of that work and tool shed, although it's pretty dark. But
I'm going to camp out and stick out for about a few hours just to see if I can make, with my spyglass, see if I can make any movement in the house, anyone coming in and out of the gate. And I'm going to do that from directly across the road behind that tree there.
okay.
And I'm hiding. Inspector?
Well, do you expect me to hang around here, or probably if we hang out with 2 of us in front of this property, it may we may attract suspicions.
Well, that's why we're hiding. I understand that it may not do well for your career, but this is a stakeout, and then we're not actually on his property.
No, you're right.
And chances are we'll find nothing anyway. But I'm just curious.
What are our chances of hiding decently?
Well, it's dark, so pretty good. Pretty good, especially if you're hiding behind like a tree across the street or something like that. And there's not a whole lot of traffic at this hour of the night either out here. So
Yeah. So I
of
got
course.
dark cloaks on. And,
without like patrolling guards, which you don't see any signs of any, or people driving by to notice you, you've got a pretty good chance of doing it stealthily without any issues.
so
Okay, let's stick around.
So basically ground level, looking through the gate and just trying to find something of anything. Spending a few hours doing this.
Good. And Ruben,
Aye.
you were able to find somebody to get that message out. And they tell you that you will be contacted if No agrees to a meeting.
Okay. Well, he went to a tea house just outside, so he will wait there for a period of time because he suspects it'll either come quickly or it won't come at all.
The person will say, "Oh, don't worry. We know where you live."
Ah, very well. Thank you.
It will not be tonight.
Fair enough. He'll tip him and be on his way.
Okay. And the Cho gentleman will be on his way, disappearing back into the shadows from whence he came.
Right? Well, if he was Chocho, then he would have responded, "Oh, we already discussed that. Never mind." He doesn't. He speaks Tibetan. So he would have done it in Tibet.
Yeah, sure.
Close enough.
Yep. And so you can return to Golden Square. You'll be there a couple of hours probably still yet before Von Zorn and Hopkins come back. Of course, when you get there, you will find Oscar Bennett and Gerard Bonham are both there, of course.
Carmichael, welcome home. So
Nice
I think
to find everybody safe.
Indeed, I think one of your little birds, as you mentioned them, came running by earlier about there being yet another murder.
What? When?
Yeah. A few hours ago, nearby
A couple hours ago, near the military club.
Did anyone respond?
Oh, well, Gerard and I popped over to take a look and see what was going on, and he was still alive at the time.
Why didn't you lead with that first? Carry on.
Apparently, he had been flung on top of a spiked fence. Well, not apparently. Clearly, he had been flung onto a spiked fence, and as he died, he mentioned the name Abaddon. Does that mean anything to you?
Abaddon.
Abadan.
Abaddon.
I'd never heard the phrase before.
Wasn't Abadan the one that replaced that Sudanese cleric?
No.
He was kind of mulling it over to himself.
Although it definitely does sound Egyptian to you.
Abadan. Well, I'm gonna.
And except it was real, and then he, I think, expired.
Abadan's a word for the devil, right? For Satan.
Abaddon is another name for like Apollyon, or another figure that's often, similar to Satan in different mythologies and cultures.
Well, he speaks Egyptian and has a high occult.
Abaddon is an angel in the New Testament book of Revelation, who is described as the king of an army of locusts. Name first transcribed in Greek, and then later translated, which in Greek it translates to the destroyer, or Apollyon.
Nice.
Abaddon is the Hebrew name.
Well, obviously you couldn't get a spelling from him on his dying breath, but
he was also surrounded by police officers at the time. There really was no getting up and chatting with the fellow.
Of course. And the assumption is that this Abaddon was 8 foot tall.
Well, when Gerard called out, was it the tall man to him, he says that he got a surprised look on his face, so wouldn't be surprised if some giant flung him on top of there. It's not that easy to get up there, and with the kind of force to drive the spikes through your whole body.
Right.
It was quite disturbing. It still makes me shudder.
Sir, I will be retiring for the evening unless you need me.
No, sir. You have a wonderful evening. Thank you for your service.
Good night, sir. Markham leaves. Well, goes to his bed in the bedroom downstairs that he stays in.
Ruben?
I
really would suggest to reward well the bird that came here. I think it was your primary bird that was here and gave us the information. They did a good job, a very good job. They led us there.
Right. Yeah. We keep them routinely fat and happy. I'll pass them a bottle of gin for sure.
Okay.
He's a child.
1890s.
He can give it to his mom. He can give it to his mother.
Right.
Himself, he can sell it.
Exactly. That'll make him the king.
On your stakeout, Stanley and Wilhelm. Unfortunately, nothing exciting happens. After an hour, some of the lights in the house go out, and then after a couple of hours, the rest of the lights in the house go out. Nobody comes or goes from the house.
Okay. Basically, that's what the nature of stakeouts are. Mostly are.
Yep.
So after 3 hours, wait till the carriage comes back around.
Oh, give me a spot hidden roll, by the way.
Oh.
You can use a bonus die.
Oh. Gravy.
Both of us, or
No, the one with spyglass.
09. I am not joking. I
Okay.
rolled 09, and that is a for me. Well, it's not a. It's just a hard success.
You did get a glimpse of a man moving about in the house who he was very tall, very broadly built, had flaring reddish brown hair, beard, and a mustache. Walking with a heavy walking stick and a bit of a limp as he was walking about the house. And hold on, I'll just show you a little image.
And I assume that he wasn't 7 foot tall or anything.
No, he's not that big. I mean, he's an impressive looking man, but in his own right, but not that impressive. And I closed the wrong damn thing. This is the one. Okay, here we go. He would have looked something like that.
And I say, oh, I see, hey, Inspector, I see someone, large man, red hair, impressive looking, well dressed, must be the colonel.
Yeah, you have a pretty strong feeling. He has a very, even looking through a spyglass at him as he moves about in one of the rooms of his house. And as he kind of, at one point, comes up and kind of stares out the window for a moment before drawing the curtains closed. He has a very commanding presence about him.
Okay.
You're pretty sure that's your man.
Well, Inspector, I don't think we're going to learn anything more tonight.
no? Let's call it a night then.
Yes.
Yeah, unfortunately, you do have work to do for the yard in the morning, Inspector. I say so because I know that Tom's not going to be able to make the next session, so that explains why he won't be around. But yeah, so you guys will return to Golden Square. You'll get back there around midnight. I don't know if any of the other people waited up for you or not. Did they?
No.
No. No, you get back to a dark, quiet 33 Golden Square. Everybody has gone to bed.
Okay, well, Zoran goes to bed too.
All right. I think that's a good enough spot to wrap up. That is the end of Friday, the 3rd of October. So when we pick back up, it will be the morning of Saturday, the 4th of October. And you will start we'll start the next session off with a nice, very early morning visit to 33 Golden Square. So thanks for playing, guys. I will end the broadcast here.
Sounds good.
And we'll resume again same time in 2 weeks' time. In 2 weeks' time, yes, I will still be on the current time. So again, it'll be the same time as it was for all of you tonight. And then the third session of this particular investigation, if there is a third session, either way, the following session, then after that in April, we'll be back to our normal time difference. So,
Okay.
cheers.
Roger.
All right, guys.